All right, good evening. Today is the Town of Monroe Board of Finance special meeting. Today is Tuesday, April 15th at 6 p.m. And this is our budget workshop meeting. And I'm going to take attendance. Catherine Stoffer. Present. Steve Kirsch.
Present.
Mark O'Donnell.
Present.
Nick Sentimentes. I don't see anyone joining remotely. Samantha Spino. Ron Banowski.
Present.
Heidi Mead.
Present.
Terry is absent, and we have Sheila Castanelli from the Board of Ed. Thank you for coming. Okay. So tonight we are going to, first, there's a number of attachments that we printed out that address some questions from our last meeting. So I think we should start there. So this sheet that has notes about the DPW projects. This is a response to Catherine's last question about the capital projects that DPW was, what the projects that were approved last year and what was in progress versus completed. And the status of those. And so Chris provided that information. And we also had a question about.
Oh sorry, my husband hit traffic on the way back from New Haven. I was gonna leave my kids alone. So here I am.
So it's 6:02 and Samantha Spino's here. And then the other one was about storage. And there's some notes on the garage and the storage on the back. So.
And that answers my question about what the storage was to be versus what we did last year.
Right. And then there's an Excel table that lists the totals in response to Steve's questions with how much some of the costs are related to the Board of Ed priority list. The world language, the red category, and then the red plus the assistant principal role.
Okay, but the new part on here is the breakdown of benefits. Can we discuss this for a moment?
Yeah.
Okay. So in the superintendent's original proposal, these benefit dollars were not included in his overall budget, or they were, but
They are included in the overall budget. So
okay.
what they were in that sheet, the I don't know if you want to call that the prioritization sheet.
Yeah, okay.
They were not spiked out in the red category. Okay.
Okay, they just weren't called out as part of it.
Yeah,
They were still
the
in his
benefit calculation is done separate. Okay, and it's done with the current census that's in place at the time by bargaining it. Okay, because different bargaining units have different premium shares. So that's the way, and it's also done with the retiree calculation. And then there's some offsets for, some like TRB, like a retired teacher, for instance, that is has insurance. There's a TRB, there's a contribution from TRB, so there's offsets there. So it's a complex computation. It also gets updated because whoever's on insurance, when it was prepared in October, we might have a different census in March. Because
Right.
Okay, so what I did was when I updated the calculation, when we just got the new updated rates, I updated the rate, but I also used an updated census. So
Okay.
there's going to be multiple variables.
So that's the drag along for
Yes.
these things in red, but they were already in his proposed budget. So when he says, I will take out something in red to help balance the first selectman's reduction, the value that he put in should have been larger
Well,
right? Because it would have had to come out to be put back in, because if I'm looking at this and I say.
but again,
Right.
I did the calculation, the health insurance calculation completely separate. And I'm making adjustments for adds and deletes separately.
Yeah, okay,
Okay, so when I came up with a net, if you look at the green part, which
yeah.
there's an adjustment to insurance,
Yeah.
that's what the net adjustment is there.
Yeah, so this adjustment to insurance, but all of this was if we took it all out and you had taken out the insurance along with the salaried people.
Yeah,
that
there's
or
there's
people.
other pieces that would have adjusted the insurance,
Mhm.
but some of it were these bodies.
So then when you pulled out this 197 for seventh grade world languages, that was their salary line. It didn't
It didn't-
also pull out whatever additional money had to be put back in for their benefits. Because there were two separate lines and we just plunked a line as opposed to plunked a line and said, and how much more insurance do we have to put back in? So I think
Yeah.
I get that. I get that.
Okay. All right, when we get into the meat of it. It'll matter what goes in the bottom line. If
And
we have
again,
that.
in calculating, especially in columns 2 and 3.
Mhm.
There is a little guesswork in what the benefits are gonna be, because you don't know.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that I'm not double counting or the savings should have been greater over here, right? So in other words, if something was summer reading program, 15,000 is an offset to the first selectman's reduction. And I want to add that back. So if the 250 includes that 15, then I understand. If it doesn't, then maybe that 15 should have been whatever, 15 something else. Right, should have been larger, but you're saying no.
I guess you're,
If we go to add something back here,
Yep,
I obviously have to account for the benefit that are gonna drag along with those. people.
yes.
But
Now-
they were never taken out.
yeah, I think is that the question? Like this insurance updated, was that
They
net of?
they were updated as one lump number.
And that was so
Okay,
taking these
yes.
people out was included in
Okay,
this
so
two
when he
fifty
took the red,
update.
when he
Okay.
took the red out, he took the green out with it here.
Yes,
So if we put some
Well-
red back, we have to put a portion of this green back.
yes, but when in calculating the savings from the insurance, that was done as a calculation on its own, not individually, but you know.
I get. So, but if we put something in the red back, we have to put a proportion of the green back.
But you've also
Yes.
updated that calculation
Okay.
in general
Okay.
also. Yeah.
Yes.
All right,
Okay.
which is the numbers here. Okay, that's.
Okay.
Okay.
Answers your
Yeah.
questions, okay.
Yeah, I think I know what.
Okay, so then there's also a copy of the proposed capital budget refinements from our last meeting, where we made some adjustments to figures and updates. So all of those are in that orangey color. And They- all seem to be reflective of what I had in my notes. So if anyone wants to have any questions regarding those changes.
So we have 2 pages of sourcing. And then we have the pages that have the multiple years.
Correct.
So just so you know, the flow of the spreadsheet, Steve, the change in the capital 5-year plan rolls forward to the capital
Yeah.
budget. So the
Yes.
change,
A change in one
it
place. goes to-
it should flow.
Yeah, and I'm assuming it does. I'm just trying to understand what I'm about to see as I page through. Okay. So these here's our numbers. On the second page of the yearly distribution, 5-year plan, I see a bunch of numbers, a bunch of rows that are highlighted in light purple. Do they mean anything, or that's what it looks like, it came out on mine?
I think that's like a totals line.
Yeah,
So I think that totals everything up. So like all the categories, pardon me, all the categories are here and then the purple is like the funding and then the.
Oh,
No,
okay,
I just-
okay,
Right.
yeah, okay, I got it.
Yeah,
I got
it shows them.
And then
like,
it breaks
so-
it down over here.
That's fine,
right?
I was focusing on the colors and not the, thank you.
You got it.
Yeah.
That was done intentional.
No, it actually makes perfectly good sense when I take,
And what's the FA plan?
it's a CFA plan, like under fire Monroe.
Fire apparatus plan?
That is the. That is the fire. That's a good question. Heidi, what's
Where
FA
did you say
plan? That's
In
Heidi's
yellow,
coding.
could be the fire apparatus.
That's
Oh,
probably what that
CFA
is.
plan.
I
It
assume-
is a fire apparatus
Fire
plan. It
apparatus.
covers all the fire engines. And cars.
Okay.
Yeah, and I had asked a question of them, whether they were still all in sync, and they said yes, so I don't need to deal with the detail. If it's,
Sounds like they're more in sync than
then they've been,
ever before, yeah.
oh, yeah, okay, on the next page, under Parks and Rec, you've got a highlighted yellow. Now, I thought those were page references, is this a TBD, is there something else under the park improvements, Wolf Park, Great Hollow Lake, and Lake Zor Losif? I guess those are page numbers? They just don't exist?
So that would be a Heidi question, I think.
The LoSiP wasn't that the 203 is just the amount
Well,
that
the
they're gonna be
203 is the
getting.
amount.
Yeah, I'm
And-
sorry, Steve,
yeah.
where were you?
Yeah, there's no page numbers for those.
Right there.
It has to be determined.
Oh, okay,
Mhm.
okay, fine.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, the dollars are fine. Police special duty was the next thing in yellow. Um,
Do you want me to open my book to where it would be?
No, I can't see that too. No, I want to see the new pages. I just want to make sure I'm looking at the right column. So that's 25, 26. 431, 663. Okay, into this year.
Mhm.
That's good. Good. Two oh three oh 76. So we, after the meeting, we just go in and replace all of these pages. Yeah, I hate those who made so many. From the updates.
No. Totally
So
did.
the grand total. I guess the most important thing, the grand total at the bottom,
Yeah, the 17.
yeah, whatever the last page number is on the sheet. It's not numbered. So we've got bonding 14, almost 14.9. Capital reserve, 244,000-ish.
Mhm.
Police special duty, 431 and change. Grants and other, 870 and change. Town road fund, 1,150,000-ish. For grand total of 17,501. And bonding costs. So, okay. 17, 13, 9, 8, and 4. There's some space.
Any other questions on
And Catholic John's.
it? Okay.
Yeah.
Nothing good? All right. And then the last, page that, is here is an Excel spreadsheet where there's, some adjustments that are needed just based on more information that's come through regarding, wage adjustments, and you're gonna see the bulk of the items are electric, because our electric, for this current year is running high, so we need to make some modifications to what's projected already in the budget for the electric costs. So, and Ron, I don't know if you wanna take us through this, or we wanna do it with the departments.
So the
If
the
we-
thought, I guess what we could do is, and in fair transparency, Heidi's got a second screen. We kind of, her and I went through and put these in a second copy of the base budget, just so
Okay,
we can work through easier and
Yeah.
hopefully not miss anything during the budget.
okay,
What's displayed here is the copy of the base budget as it stands in your
in
budget
the
books.
binders, okay,
Okay,
It
so
stands from the council.
I think the best thing to do is just scroll through the budget and maybe plug these in as we go.
Okay.
And hopefully,
that sounds good.
you know, you agree, and we can move on and.
So basically, she had the spreadsheet where it's already been added, and then we're gonna watch her add, so that way she's got to check, so we're not missing something.
Cheat sheet, whatever you wanna, yeah.
You both did together.
So, so you wanna we'll just start at the top of the base budget. And, you know, I guess start with investment interest.
Papers everywhere.
What page?
Ron, do you
19.
want me to,
We're gonna start on
That's-
revenue budget summary, which would be page 19.
I'm sorry, Heidi, what did you?
do you want me to load this in as you're discussing it, or?
I would say yes, as we,
Okay,
you know, as we discuss it, load it in, yeah. So
Oh my gosh.
investment interest, so Steve, yeah, so that's the revenue summary. If you go investment
Yeah.
interest, yeah, there we go.
Next.
So the first page of the revenue budget detail.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, and that was the investment interest, that was what, the board had discussed last meeting with Frank.
Right,
Right, so we're, and I think the 2.35 is what we all agreed on.
mhm.
yep.
Okay.
So that's, you're adjusting it up 150 to the 235.
Okay,
So the second item on the spreadsheet is increasing unassigned fund balance, which is a corresponding increase to the Board of Finance contingency, which I'm suggesting to pull that up by 252,000. So the 250 offsets that to keep it budget neutral. With the idea of, well, there's many unknowns in the budget, but my other concern is natural gas and electricity going into the next year, even building in the increase, the pure rates that haven't been set yet, so there's still unknowns. So keeping it budget neutral, but building it in, that was my thought process there.
Within $2,000.
Well, that's basically the $2,000, you know, it's kind of a
Okay.
rounding error.
Yeah, I don't care.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
But the thought was to keep the 250 somewhat budget neutral, because it isn't, you know,
yeah.
it isn't as known of an item, but there's enough unknowns in the world we're in right now where I thought it was prudent to.
well, and
But
we're
how-
trending a 6-figure variance this fiscal year,
Yes,
so just keep that in mind.
But how did you pick 250 versus 150 versus 200 versus 300,000? And what made you land on 250?
just if you What's the 166 plus what's the sum of the town 86?
The town was 86,055.20.
Yeah, so
And the Board of Ed was 166,735.
Okay, yeah, that's about as harmless a way to do it.
I mean, it's,
No, I agree because.
yeah, I mean, I could
I
have
mean, if it
five
doesn't go
hundred,
up,
it would have made me feel a little better, but I mean, the reality is if something catastrophic happens during the year, from we've got the emergency, disaster relief fund set up.
yeah,
And if something happened worse that couldn't, I'd be going to this board and council
council.
for a special appropriation, so. The good thing with contingency is it requires this board and council to release it,
Right.
so there are checks and balances.
Yeah, I mean. When I just see the 250 additional added to the, to the fund balance, taking into the account the comments people, including myself, have said before. Eventually, we're gonna have to wind down.
Well,
Using that much from fund balance, but we're not gonna use it because it's essentially offsetting contingency, so fine.
It's a wash.
Yeah, it's a wash, and I mean, if we need the contingency, then we've got bigger problems.
and Steve, that was part of it, knowing that the 4 million was, I myself wasn't comfortable using much more than that, so.
Mhm.
Okay,
It's a big number.
Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna have to have a conversation about how to unwind it, but that's gonna be
Mhm.
not for now, for later. Okay,
So I have a question. So this is just in case we want to have $500,000. You had mentioned electricity. Is there like what else is driving
So
other than,
Yeah, so
the active cost things?
There are two open EMS contracts, which was part of the original build of contingency.
Mhm.
Cause in your budget, it's just shy of 250, that the
Mhm.
budget as it exists right now.
right, 247.
There are two open contracts in there. And I know there's a couple smaller items, the two EMS open contracts were were more than half of it.
More than half of the 250
More
add.
than half of the 250.
Okay.
And that, we will get a hard number on that in June, probably.
It should be, the current contracts are up by June 30th, so we
Okay.
should,
We should know before then. Okay.
Yeah, but we won't know before
Before
no,
you
we
do
go to
this.
referendum, which is really the
Mhm.
Right.
So we have to be ready.
the
for it.
real problem, not problem.
And what are the EMS contracts for? Are these for like the,
it's the paramedic and EMT and paramedic
EMT,
services.
yeah.
Basically, they sub out.
When our
Services.
volunteers
Mhm.
need coverage.
That's right. Didn't they come in and they talked to us about, that's what I was trying to like
Yeah.
connect it to. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, next on there is HR wage adjustments.
Okay, and there's actually, so
insurance.
I thought we were gonna need an adjustment. We had that in the spreadsheet and we did not,
Yeah.
You have to understand something, when you're going through wage adjustments, we had one contract with that was open for 3 years. We had another open for 2 years, so you got to build on a build on a build. We had money put aside from prior years. We had money put aside this year for it, so we had to create the, what we were gonna need all in and then reduce it by what we had put aside already. And we're okay.
Okay,
So-
and that's why why it was included
Yeah.
with nothing in there, okay.
Yeah.
So that's a no change.
Okay.
So basically you went through
We
and
went-
said like,
we went
okay,
through the
we're
minutia.
comfortable. This is what we still need for all these open contracts and what have you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we're good there.
Okay.
HR insurance, there was some savings on the, with the rates, however, after looking at the updated census of who was taking insurance, who was retiring, who wasn't taking insurance, there's actually even though the rate went down, rate of increase from 12 to 11%, there's a slight increase in the need for that one.
Yeah. the census changed, okay.
Yeah, IT contracted services.
Well, wait, before you go on, okay, so we're telling Heidi to go book that,
Yes,
okay,
And she just put it in. I'm watching it.
okay.
And is that inclusive of, not to skip to the last line, but I'm assuming that this 166 is,
that is,
the idea is that could potentially be
that's.
wage related.
No, that's electricity.
That's just electricity.
Just
Yeah.
electricity.
It's probably what that account number is. If I looked at the thing. I'm-
No,
okay.
no, so the general fund in the town side of the budget is just one line item.
Gotcha,
The
okay.
details is kept in a separate general fund account, accounting for all the school activity.
Okay.
So the general fund for the town is actually the combined
Yeah, it's like,
total of the two.
gotcha, okay.
But that,
Okay.
yeah, to skip to the bottom, that 166 is electricity for Board of Ed. That's all that addresses there.
Yeah, and we had known that was coming, because you had said something about that
Mhm.
somewhere, either here or at board.
Yeah, it was here.
Yeah, well, it may also been there, because,
Look at, and it's creating a current year problem that we're addressing on both sides, and it's created a budgetary problem for, with next year. So,
well, not to digress, but I think you said that you have this year's Board of Ed thing covered. It's just gonna be, that
Yes.
you're not gonna be returning a whole
Yes,
lot to the town.
that's what I'm anticipating at this point. That's correct.
Okay,
So, ready to move on?
Yeah.
yes,
IT contracted services. So that was an item that Heidi actually had noticed was budgeted in 2 locations. She clarified that with Paul Corse, and he agreed, and we adjusted that.
okay.
That, do you have anything else? Is that correct? You in agreement with that explanation, Heidi?
Yes,
Police pension, we got the CMERS rate for next year. We were using a projected rate. So there's some savings there, 41,000. The next 2 line items, I believe, I don't recall who picked up on that. It might have been Steve. It was expenditure that was incorrectly hitting Monroe Fire Department budget, and it should have been hitting the EMS budget.
Cancel each other, but
They net out, yes.
yeah, they cancel each other out, but they've got to be in the right place.
And the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 lines are the electric accounts throughout the town's budget.
And if you guys want that total again, I'll just say it's $86,055.20. 86,055.20.
What is FAC? Who-
Facilities?
Is that just general? The big one,
It's
it says FAC. Is that facilities? Is that building? What does FAC stand for?
a good question. Hey Heidi,
which line item,
so it's 1001,
which department?
it's 160.
That's facilities maintenance,
Facilities
that's
maintenance.
DPW.
Oh, okay.
It used to be called town hall maintenance, and we changed it a couple years ago to be more encompassing to facilities.
So that's multiple buildings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I was confused. Okay.
AC is animal control, and the fire
Right.
departments, EMS, streetlights.
Okay, so all of these are a year adjustments based on
The current trend.
the current trend, current rates.
So the
current-
adjustments were, the director of public works went through and recalculated all the electric adjustments.
And just throw it out there, Pure and Eversource are still setting rates.
You Ron,
Yes,
bear with me because I have to make these adjustments in the departments. I can't make it on the base budget directly because that's where it's linked, okay?
okay.
Go ahead.
I'll catch up with you guys. I'll listen to you, but I'm gonna load these adjustments. Is that if there's any changes or to any of those adjustments, just let me know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions on the electric? Okay.
No, I think it's self-explanatory now.
And then the final adjustment, before the, Monroe Public Schools adjustment is the water distribution system, the fire hydrants and water lines throughout town.
That's the inspection.
It's the, we get, we
We
get
get
charged,
charged every year.
we're charged by the number of hydrants and the, I think it's the, I don't know the correct terminology, but the length of the water line throughout the town. We get charged by Aquarian for,
Yeah, we always have, but it's
Yeah.
always gone up. So
so.
do they have new rates that allow
No,
it to go
well,
down?
so there's rate adjustments through the year, we get our current rates, it's right around the time the first selectman's budget is due. We get the rates, the new rates that are, I wanna say, begin that April, so we use those to project as far as we can. They give us some projected increases, and we know there's an increase like the following April that ends the next fiscal year that we kinda have to,
For 3 months.
that we
Okay, so we estimated high and we can take it
We
down.
estimated high and after relooking at the calculation with best available information, we felt we could trim it.
Every time I see that number, I remember all the fights and everybody going, what in the name of God are we paying so much money for? And that was back when, when it hit 500,000.
Yeah,
Crazy.
yeah.
And okay,
So,
okay.
And is there anything that would happen, like, this covers all of the use that we could potentially have with hydrants, right?
yeah, I mean, if a new water line, let's say hypothetically, there's a new development on Turkey Roost Road. And a new water line needs to go in. Yeah, that would, we would have to plan for that,
Well,
but
what-
it wouldn't happen overnight though either, so.
But what about, like, in the case of, structure factors, right? In the
No, it's
hydrant
not- it's not for
It's
use.
not use.
It's not use.
Right, okay, so
Yeah.
that wouldn't change.
No,
Okay, that was my
It's
question.
existence and it used to be explained as there's inspections of them. There's a number that are, a portion that's inspected every
yeah,
year.
well, the fee
Or
is,
something.
Yeah.
It had multiple, I thought it had multiple parts, it was.
it
it was
does,
explained.
what they're actually charging us for, I couldn't necessarily tell you, I'm sure it's inspections and maintenance and upkeep of the lines.
Yeah.
And are those their lines?
I believe they
Okay.
are.
Yeah, that's their lines.
Okay, thank you.
It's their lines, their hydrants.
Okay.
So they replace a certain number of hydrants from time to time. I know they replaced my street a number of years ago. Somebody just came out and ripped it out and, put a new one nicely painted and stuff.
Okay.
But it's something we have
Mhm.
it's something we have never had any control over. They
Mhm.
charge us and we pay. Okay,
Any questions?
so all of those pluses and minuses, and we're right back at the same mill rate?
Yeah.
Seemed like a lot of work for nothing.
Numbers crunching.
But it does provide for, all joking aside, it does provide for some contingency and, obviously Frank's increased interest number there helped out.
Mhm.
Hopefully we don't need the contingency.
Hopefully he makes a lot more money and we don't need from the fund balance either, but
Mhm.
I have no faith in what the government's doing, so. Whatsoever.
Damn thing.
So Heidi's still navigating the numbers.
Okay, so. at the last meeting, we made adjustments in on page 17 to the mill rate calculation with the
Contingency.
contingency numbers. Have those been reflected in anything, either in the number on this piece of paper or in what Heidi has live?
Oh, like did these changes
Yeah.
and the changes
They,
made to the
they
collectibles?
very well, I know we did Heidi did adjust them earlier today. Well, Heidi, are you
When
close
she
to,
can, let her catch up.
yeah,
Don't.
oh, she'll let me know.
You're distracting her.
I don't want to read a headline. Finance director attacked by office.
Catch that, Bill?
Can I defend myself?
I should have said off the record.
Glad to switch places with you, Ron.
No, just let us know when you're,
Yeah, it's.
answer your question, I think we may be, we increased the, but whether they're changed in this model or not.
That's
So we'll,
right,
when we get to that point, we'll double check that.
because it dropped it a few tenths.
Hmm.
I don't know if I printed that out.
Who created your model? Is it something that you guys have been tweaking over the years? or-
Yeah, that's
Oh,
a
yeah.
Heidi model. It's probably, I'm gonna guess it's probably 10, 12 years old, somewhere in that range.
I mean, hey, if it works, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, without any of the other changes, it dropped it down to 2856.
Weird weather day, randomly like rain for like 15 minutes, you know?
So when the wind whipped up, we lost power for a couple of minutes. Just
You
long,
got it back though?
just long enough for the generator to cycle on and then it's like. Yeah. There was debris all over the roads. I mean, I went from here down to Trumbull and there was just people, where's this guy going off the side of the road? There's big tree branches here and there. That's the beauty of having a generator. Just don't care anymore.
me.
But it wants you badly. That's okay. I remember to mute my phone this time. I don't want any of my grandchildren calling. Oh, we just saw them, so they're not likely to call tonight.
Hey Heidi, could you, that street light number, was that complete? That number doesn't match what's on the spreadsheet.
Oh, 2728.
Oh, it's transposed,
There
right?
we go. Sorry, I
Oh.
couldn't unmute. Very difficult to unmute. Is it transposed?
It is transposed.
Yeah, it should be.
It should be 2729.
Okay.
Instead of, I didn't even pick up that it was transposed.
Streetlights.
Room 584.
Yeah,
I'm putting in whole numbers here. The other spreadsheet has changed, so
okay.
in front of you.
Yeah, no, that's
I can
good.
go back and tweak that later, but
2.
it'll get us close enough. Where did I leave off?
Yeah, there's a part of me who says we ought to round up to $1 or $5.
Yeah.
I have to go to each line item in each department to get this stuff, so it takes a little bit of time.
Yeah,
Fine, I have to
All
find-
good, Heidi.
that's fine.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, I mean, we're dealing with a $100 million budget, and we've got items with 32 cents in it. It's like, really? You think anybody has ever done a budget like that?
Sure, there's somebody out there.
I don't know. You
But
know,
not
when I
with you,
used to
there's no
when I
point in-
used to have to account for things, it was like, it's over 10%, you better have, you're off by 10%, you better have a damn good explanation, but you know, after that. Closer than that,
Yeah, 10% seems to be that magic
yeah.
number.
It's round.
Yeah, which is kind of weird
Mhm.
because sometimes that's a gigantic number, but
Mhm.
you know, because it matters obviously what the base is, but. I mean, I don't know, how many, I know I've asked this Ron before, how many ledger account numbers do we actually have?
Oh,
It's in the thousands, right? Isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah, I think you've told me before.
Definitely, it's over 2,000.
Over
Is it over
2,000?
2,000?
But it's misleading, because you've got like the departments baked into
Well,
the
it's-
account number, right?
Yeah. Well, I know just in the, on the board side, in the general fund, it's over to, I think it's 2,000. So, when you added both, yeah, I've never counted, but it's probably a big number. If you added all funds, all account, yeah.
Project for next month.
Yeah, no.
Oh,
You know, it was-
I did that project with one of my clients, we were
like I said, I know
1,300
I've
accounts, it was a
asked.
nightmare.
It came up one.
Now, the problem is, at this point, there's probably a lot of inactive accounts that,
Yeah.
accounts that could be made inactive that,
Make a
Well,
transfer,
I
like
mean,
some balance that's
what
just
was
been
it,
sitting
was it
there,
3 years
consolidated.
ago, was it 3 years ago, the board did went through line by line? That was an interesting exercise. They literally went through every ledger account.
that would have been 5 years, 3 months ago.
It was before you?
It was just before we.
Gotta start doing that.
No, was it? I don't think
It
Time
was,
flies.
it was January.
Oh, maybe it
of,
was,
two-
maybe it was.
January of 2020. Just pre-COVID, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because they found things that weren't treated the same way in different accounts and it was,
I mean, it's a nice
I
project to
thought it
do
was
if
a
you have the
worthwhile
stomach for it.
exercise. If for
It's
nothing
just
else,
a
to
lot.
educate the
Yeah.
board and what they're really.
And you have fewer accounts to choose from, it's easier to like budget, it's easier to like find things, like you said, the comparison between, like accounts, utilities, and then you have electric, and then you have,
People are like, well,
electric
if we
utilities,
treat such and
you
such
know.
an expense like something over here, why aren't we treating it the same over here?
Do you have to keep them for a certain amount of time?
Well, the other problem is any history, if you, you don't wanna necessarily delete accounts, cause any
No.
hits or, any history attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Like I
done.
have one,
You can merge accounts and you're all done?
I'm off a buck only because I didn't add in the change or whole numbers.
Okay. You guys okay with that?
Yep.
Yeah,
I think we'll make it.
Okay, so at the bottom, where it's
424,
424, 331.
So we're off $1.
Yeah.
Fine.
Um. So. So there, you actually did make the changes to contingency there. So to your point, Steve, it's 2857. That's,
right.
so Heidi, that mill rate calc on the summary spreadsheet did not include the contingency, correct?
Oh, okay, yes, that's correct.
Okay, all right, so that answers your question, Steve. So with the updated contingency right there. It's 2857.
I just double check that.
Okay. Yeah, so whatever I did, I'm off by a fraction, but could be rounding.
Ron, do you mind coming down for a sec?
Sure.
What?
I know, my Coke says dude on it.
Dude?
I had asked.
Dude, I don't know.
It tastes like regular.
It's just Coke Zero, that's it. Nothing fancy. But yeah. All good.
Yes, yep. So I don't know if,
Is she done?
yep.
Oh,
we're all-
okay.
we're all done,
Oh, okay.
so.
All right. So where do we want to go from here?
No, I want to talk about education.
Looks like there's at least a little wiggle room there.
I have a question about the grand list, just to make sure that we're starting at a good jumping off point.
Yep.
Are those exemptions and changes, is that inclusive of any Board of Assessment Appeals adjustments?
It's, yes,
Okay, just because I know
And
with the reval year, there's going to be more
yeah,
BAA changes than normal
We had 157, right?
appeals.
yeah, I don't, I'd have to. Of course, Justin will be around until after Thursday, but, I know Justin felt comfortable based on all known information
With this,
with this.
Okay.
Yes,
perfect,
and he reviewed it with me and I agreed with him, so.
okay,
But it
Great.
was, he went through where BAA sat, he also was looking ahead, who might file a potential lawsuit,
Right.
when, yeah,
right, okay. All right, so all of their changes are done and we're good with this?
yes.
All right, perfect,
Okay.
because that's a big variable.
And as you know, being a reval year, there's a little more exposure there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder, I mean, I'm curious now, but it doesn't really matter as long as he's happy, how many we have this year compared to the other reval years. but
Appeals.
appeals, yeah, for those years. But I didn't think it was as big a number as I thought it might be,
The increase.
the number of appeals. Because we were told 150 to 160, and
I mean, the
I-
values make sense, that's the thing. Is it's not out of the ordinary. That
you think the
everyone,
values make sense, everybody else going, oh my God, this is craziness, but yes, I
Wow.
understand what you're saying.
yeah,
I mean, everyone's saying the value of our homes have gone up, right? And so,
I mean, our last
Logically-
reval, we were getting tax based off of what our properties were worth in 2019. Now it's as of October of 24. It's bound to go up.
I'm getting tired of getting cash offers in the mail from people.
Cash offers, I'm getting phone calls.
I get that too, yeah, I just don't answer them.
Yeah, because I mean, I would. Yeah, because I was just looking at yeah, we had a reval in 2020, whatever you want to call it. The mill rate decreased by 0.28%. That was almost nothing. The 2015 one, our mill rate went up because the property values went down.
Mhm.
So we went up by 10%. In 2010, it was down 4%. And then the last big one was in 2004, another 25% decline. And we must have had a reval right before I purchased in 93.
I think that it went to the 10-year schedule.
Yeah, because that would have been a 10-year, so I purchased in 93. So yeah, I just pulled mine out to see what it was relatively,
Mhm.
what the mill rate effect was. So yeah, we had a couple where property values went down,
Going up sometimes or something.
but anyway.
We're good,
Yeah, but what I don't know is how many appeals we actually had during those years. I have no idea.
That's a good project. Go back through all the minutes.
No,
you just
No.
adamantly, no.
I go for things I really think I'm gonna need someday. I never thought I'd need it. About that, but-
All right, well, as long as Justin's comfortable, then we're good.
So, Steve,
Yeah, if you're comfortable.
I bet you've calculated a number to get us from
Well,
28.57 to
no,
whatever it is.
Well, I played with a
Like
couple
6
things because depending upon what we accept and how we decide to fund it,
Mm.
I could get ridiculous, but all right, I have a hand. Well, I mean.
No,
I
this is
talked to
good. I
everybody-
knew you were gonna do this.
I
You're doing
talked to
great.
everybody at the last meeting, so
Thanks.
I
Is
figured,
this regarding education? Or no?
yeah, this is about school. Just about the school budget. It's what I referred to at the last, I guess I don't have enough copies for everybody, sorry.
I may give mine to Sheila.
Give it to, so what I said last time was I took the superintendent's list. And I ordered, within his blocks of colors, I ordered the priorities top to bottom. If you take his green and if you read from the top of the page down, those were the things he was willing to give up more easily, right? So the green he was good with. The blue is a conversation he and I had, which was, he mentioned at our workshop that of the stipends that were in the yellow, 12,000 of those were unused this year, and he would therefore be comfortable with not needing them next year. And he made that to our meeting where he presented, and I followed up with him, and he said, yes, put it up in the green. So I just called it out separately.
Steve,
So
before you move on, quick question about the Chromebooks. I think that they already pay
yeah,
for
so
them
the
now.
Chromebooks in the budget were $150,000. They prepaid, they're using $75,000 in this year's
Mhm.
funds
And the
to
70
prepay, and they're keeping 75,000 in the budget for next year. So the
Okay.
70,
Froze the budget and all 5 schools put up money to make sure that we would come up with the 75
Mhm.
for this year.
Okay,
So there were things that they were going to buy between now and the end of the year, but felt so strongly
Mhm.
about,
Mhm.
we just went to 1-to-1.
Mhm.
We can't like stop that now.
Yeah. no, that makes sense, because I mean, like, at the end of the year, like, I don't know if, I remember with my mom, like, you'd get like the book and you'd be like, what do you want to buy for your class for next year? Like, and then you would go through this whole exercise. So that's what's frozen at this point, is what you're saying? Okay, so all of the things that they would be using to gear up for their next school year.
Or even the end of this year.
Or even the end of this
There are
year.
Certain things
Yeah.
that at different times during the year
Mhm.
that we're choosing not to do now.
Okay, so it's, so basically this reduction is affecting the this year, this school year.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's called spin ahead, and I apologize if you let you speak all that.
You were
because-
fine, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
but-
no, you're,
Mhm.
I'd rather have you speak.
Mhm.
It's just that I've been through it enough at this point, I feel like.
Well, I appreciate it. Seeing all the mechanics.
So in any case, then you go into the yellow, which are things that he felt more likely that he could live with. And again, the higher it from the top of the page, the more he's willing to give that up. You'll see 3 notes that say, any amount will help, and that was a comment that Joe made, that, you know, if anything can go back in on those particular line items, it would help. I will tell you that on the ice hockey, I spoke to Joe and I spoke to the principal at Massac. That number is $300 per family, for the boys and girls. The number who play, I think the total, whatever, math is 26. The idea that I had that they both thought would be good if you were gonna put something back is put half back and do $150 per student this year and then do another $150.
And that's for the
Dollars for
entire
next
sports
year.
season.
Yeah, they pay
It's paid for
everything.
play.
It's pay for
It's-
play, so.
$300 per season.
Per
So-
student.
Right,
Okay.
and the problem with hockey is it's a very expensive sport, so we have to pay for ice time. And the lockers, and there are pieces that we use to pay for down at the rinks in Shelton.
Okay,
That's our nearest rink.
okay.
So the idea here is this was a number to help offset the extremely high costs of
We used to
of
have
hockey.
wondered. Wait a minute.
Yeah. So, you know, instead of putting the whole thing back, if we were inclined, if anybody was inclined to put the whole thing back, we could put like half would be a good way to do it, and the others, it was just, you know, any amount will help. Reading down the yellow, there are 2 items that I have highlighted in a green box. They have to go together. The reduced summer help and the supplies for the summer help, and Joe talked to us about the cleaning and the waxing of the floors and how they clean it but not wax it this year, the classrooms, but they'd still do all the hallways, if you remember that conversation. But those 2 things have to go together and they have to be fully funded, so it's an all or none and together.
I just have one question. Are they, so those, then they're gonna clean the classroom floors, but not polish and wax them?
That's right, not strip them and wax them.
Yeah, so we have, we hire high school students and some college students will come back and work as summer help, and it's reducing the number of summer help at our buildings because there wouldn't be as much work. So it'd also be cutting the supplies for waxing and stripping. 'Cause there's-
Yeah, I know, you know, I'm asked because I used to do it when I was a kid.
Ah,
Like, 3 years at Chalk Hill, wax buff,
Yeah.
scrub, you know, paint.
So it would be hallways, and cafeterias, but not classrooms. Classrooms would all get cleaned, so rather than taking everything out of the room, push it all to one side, really do a full cleaning on one side of the room, move everything to the other side, do a full cleaning on that side, and then just set up.
You're gonna like scrub them, and that's it, and then rinse them, or? wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
My
do-
problem is that wear and tear on the floor.
Yes.
Yeah.
It,
Just, I was just curious.
We did it over COVID that summer when we went out because we didn't have people in the building because we were trying to, so we know we can sort of survive without it. Does wear and tear on the rooms by the end of that school year were really bad, but if we have to come up with numbers, we started being creative.
Thanks.
So again, continuing down, I think, so the yellow is self-explanatory. And then the highest priority, or the last one that he would, want to have cut would be the assistant principal. And then in the reds were the summer reading program, and going down, meaning the bottom, the 7th grade world language is his #1 priority for restoration. So reading from the top down is what you, reading from the bottom up, is the priority for restoration. Sure.
Just, the first grade at Monroe is something that I believe Joe mentioned at the meeting with the presentation to you as well, is where we're also watching the number of students that we have. Right now, those are class sizes of, 15, 14 at Monroe for 3 classes. So if we get that to 2 classes, they'll be like sizes of 22, which at Font Hollow and Stepney, that's more typical. So we could cut that classroom teacher in that building if we needed to. So I mean, it's always better to have smaller class sizes, but that
Especially when
was
they're
one
young.
that Joe was really watching. That may be something that we would still continue to cut based on enrollment.
And of course, the other interesting thing is that every year they go in and they say, this is the number of teachers we need. And then when, especially the lower grades, the kindergarten, I can't tell you the number of years he comes back, we had no choice, we had to hire a teacher, and they just come up with the money, they don't come back. Order to the town, they take it out of wherever.
We're watching Monroe kindergarten for, based on current registrations, we're low there as well. So we currently have 3, but based on the numbers that we have today, it could be 2. Looking at how many students between April and the first day of school, it varies. One year there could be 4 students, the next year it was 15. That would put us over, we'd have to have the 3 classrooms, so that's something else that we're watching as well.
And how typical is it to have a lot? Are there parents like me who kind of wait until like, oh, it's May or it's June, I should probably get on this, right? Like, do you see like a bigger spike in the summer with those enrollments for like new students, or is it really just trickles in pretty steadily as the new year starts?
It's all over the map, I'll be honest with you. Bill's great about getting it out in the paper. We send it out to all preschools when we're doing, when registration opens. Each elementary school does a welcome to kindergarten, and we do screenings on the kindergartners. They do tours of the building. So we try to get that out with Bill's help too, to, have families know and try and get them in. But you also don't know when people are moving.
That's true.
And sometimes they want to finish out that school year that they're currently, where they're living, and then move to the new town. So that's when we end up with the people coming in during the summer. So it's not something that I can specifically say. It's most often this time, because it really and truly varies. And since COVID, there's no pattern. People love Monroe and coming in all the time, even throughout the school year.
Gotcha. Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you.
So then what I did after putting these in order, and you can see the notes out to the right-hand side, I was just trying to figure out what things added up to, reading from top down. The green themselves was 863,000 and change, which is about 46% of the 1.85 million that was reduced. If you add in the 12,000, brings you up to 875,500, which is 47.3% of the reduction. Reading from the bottom up, based on the things that I heard at the Board of Ed meeting, would add the assistant principal in. Being there, hearing what happened last year, or going into last year when we did add an assistant principal at another elementary, and the need for it, and the commentary since, personally, if I was a parent, I would want that of the principal there. And Joe gave other, breakdowns on the school and whatnot. So I added it in, and I told Joe what I was gonna do. And so that's why my green box is where it is. or green highlight.
And just to be clear, like, I think that the size of Stepney, that ratio with the size of a building like that, like, we're one of the only like, that's one of the only schools that doesn't have an assistant principal with a size like that,
It's not
right?
only that, they also have, correct me, Sheila, they also have the higher special education,
MLL.
or MLL. okay.
MLL, not special
The
education,
language.
but
Mhm.
multilingual learners.
Mhm.
We have over 30 students. I mean, it's coming down
Mhm.
because our MLL teacher is doing a great job and we're getting students, more comfortable in the classroom with the English language, but with the number of residents on one side of town, we are finding that we are having more students from MLL backgrounds coming into that school. And that adds a lot to a classroom.
So the red plus that assistant principal was 736,000 and change, or about 40%. And then the question in the bottom boxes, which is what I mentioned at our last meeting. I would accept the green and the blue, just, that the school system will suck it up and just, that's on them. I was looking to have the restoration be the red plus the yellow. And my initial take is that goes to the taxpayers to pay for, which obviously affects the grant, the tax rate, the mill rate. And then the middle, depending upon, if you wanted to pick it apart or not, I just treated the whole thing and said, okay, if we're taking money from our savings accounts or whatever, we have money in the general fund, we have money in the special ed reserve, we have $18,000, it's not a lot, in the 248A fund, which I realized I didn't update my own notes. And had you had all of these numbers worked out, it would have raised the mill rate from 28.61 to 28.84. And obviously that's before we did the adjustments to the grand list calculation after the last meeting. And so that's what I want to talk about, and I'd like to put back as much as we can. I'm concerned about a couple things. Number one, I'm concerned about moving the district forward. I'm concerned about taking things out and how. My other overriding issue, though, is the school system has, with contracts and requirements, a number it's increasing each year, that's greater than what the first selectman left in. Right, so while yes, they would be getting more money under his proposal, they couldn't keep the same set of programs and people because you couldn't even pay for the existing staff and benefits. And that's a structural problem that we have. And I went back and looked at the salary and benefit proposals for the last 5 years. And again, they're all averaging more, they're all averaging 2.8, $2.9 million just for that. So.
And we did look through to see, like, we did ask the question, what does that equal, like, in someone's salary? What was that raise kind of look like? It's not like we're talking about these people getting 13, 20% raises. We're talking about 3%, maybe 4% if you move a step up on the guide. It's not something that's really, you're talking about cost of living adjustments for the most part, so it's not something like we're talking about, teachers getting rich off of these increases. So I think like that's just something that should be, made clear, I guess. Not that you all know this, right? You got kids and all of that. So yeah, I think that's a big part of it as well, right?
So I mean, I've got concerns just structurally how we do, and it's not really limited to the Board of Ed. It's all across town, and it's all, we tried to do a 3-year plan in this body. And it became a numbers exercise and not where do you need to be? Talk to the library director. hours that were cut years and years and years ago, we haven't restored. And where do we wanna be? Got a additional staff for Parks and Rec. When we open that building, and we, as a body, the council, with their committee, nobody's looking at, that I see. The structural things that are increases, and we're treating this as a year by year, and it isn't, so. I mean, I just mention that because it bothers me every time I get onto a specific thing that we use the forest for.
I think that's a great point, starting the year with, here's what we're going to need contractually. And, you know, that's where we start, right? That's what you're saying.
Yeah, and I
And we
mean,
can
that's,
project better that way.
and that's actually what, I gotta have it with me. Have to have it with me. I have to have it with me.
But you know, you could get like, you could say there's a contractual, you know, you sign a contract for 3 years, it'd be 3 years now, it'd be 2.5, and you're locked into that. Too, so it's like,
Yeah,
that-
so,
that doesn't change, but it can, you know, after the contract, it can change, but things could change.
But that's true on the town
following year,
side
yeah.
too.
it is true,
Yeah.
yeah, it's true
So-
everywhere, and we don't,
Yeah.
we don't.
And the
do it.
town is always pressured to do less with
Yeah.
more.
And
So,
I've
Yeah.
said that's not right either, but
so I've sat on a negotiation and the union's position is we'll take the risk.
What do you mean? That you like want to
So-
reopen the
You
contract?
go to arbitration, you go, yeah, I was the union vice president, you know.
Right. So they would rather you do layoffs than work
And not
with you
give
on
it-
negotiating.
yeah.
Well,
And-
So it's,
I mean, I've been
It's a
there just
tug and
with my
pull,
mom's
Sam.
teacher strikes. I understand that, like,
And well,
You
the
know.
other thing is the town council, well, for the teacher's contract, the town council has the ability to veto it, even though it's
Mhm.
negotiated. Then it goes to arbitration. The council has never wanted to do that because the arbitration rules in Connecticut are stacked against against you. Now, you don't have to
Right.
pay for it, but it's a winner take all on every issue, right? The arbiter can't
Cherry
meet us
pick.
in the middle, so.
Mhm.
right.
The council, every time they've had the opportunity, at least while I've been in town, to say, no, this particular contract is too high. Doesn't, so
So
then
when is
we
the
are here
contract
where
over?
we're here.
what's the
We're
contract?
in contract.
Negotiations will start in the fall.
Yeah.
Fall for teachers?
Yes.
They generally, they generally do 3-year, 5 years, or 2-year, yes, I know.
3 years.
Yeah.
3 years.
Yes, I mean, we're talking about renegotiating right around the corner from when we would be doing it anyways, so.
Yeah, but in any case, to your question, this summary of budget drivers is
Mhm.
one of the first charts in the superintendent's budget every year. And that's what has me. Again, I look at that, because I sit there in the meeting, I'm going, oh my God. Because then when you look at it, it's most of the budget, it's most of the increase. So what do we do? So anyway, I don't know how you want to do this. I didn't come with a written motion. I mean, we've
I
generally
don't think we're
discussed.
making motions.
We're not
Right.
making motions tonight.
Well, if we want to fill this in, I mean, we always have, admitted, we always have tomorrow, Thursday, excuse
Right.
me, to make a final choice, but I thought one of our purposes tonight was to try to come to terms with numbers.
Mhm.
Well, I
So-
think that one of the things that had been alluded to, maybe last meeting, was let's see what the numbers look like. Let's see where we land.
Mhm.
And if the 28.61 is the goal here, right? What would it look like if we put, like, how much money would we be putting back if we got to 28? We restored it to 28.61, right? I think that that's what we've been presenting, that, you know, that's,
Well, given where
something
we're
to
sitting
start
at
with.
28.57, it's not very much, so.
I know, but-
28.61.
but you're talking about raising it up to 28.84, which is, you know, like that's, you're gonna get some of the way there, right? Like,
Oh, yeah, I mean,
You're not gonna
If-
get all
if-
of this, but
if it were me and I was making well, no, that's not really the right way to say it. I would like to see what would happen if we stuck the 736, 177 back in.
mhm,
That would be my first request, see what that does.
just to see.
Just to see what
That
it
doesn't
does.
hurt, just seeing.
So,
Then I would like to, or in concert with that, have a conversation about taking some money from any of our other reserve locations. If we don't want it to hit, if we want it in the budget, but we don't want it to hit the taxpayers, we have some sources to take some amount of money.
And what is our sped reserve fund balance? It's 2 million?
Reserve, that
I'm
is
sorry,
about a
what,
million,
which one?
right?
Sped,
Special ed.
One
Special
point
ed,
two five.
yeah,
and there's an
Can you
inc-
scroll up and see what that does? Please, sorry.
what, add the 736?
I think she just did. I just want to
Well,
see what it looks like.
So the 736 isn't fully loaded, remember?
that's.
yeah,
right.
for
Right.
just,
Yeah,
Do you
Just
want
for
to fully
funny
load it?
ha-has.
Or no?
Yeah, what is it?
It would be basically 972 all.
okay, yeah, and 72.
where Malcolm?
Heidi, could you add 972,000 to the Board of Ed budget?
Where's-
28.87.
28.87.
So. Well, what are your thoughts on that before we move on to futzing with it a little more? We're not talking about giving them everything. We're talking about a fully loaded
No, and I'll
staffing.
tell you the other reason with what Sheila talked about Monroe L. We give them that and they don't need it for that, and they put some stipend money back in. So be it. Again, we can only give them money. We can't tell them how to spend it.
Mhm,
And that's why I
Right.
don't like
This
this
list-
chart.
mhm.
Well,
It's
I'm
not
not,
for the Board of Finance to determine.
No, I think that we're
No,
just trying to understand like what, so then, okay, so,
Because this. We just learned that first grade at Monroe L, this 82,629 might still go.
it's just hard to tell at this point because of the enrollment,
right.
yeah.
And
So I agree.
This like 1.8. I think that this is great. I just think that we
look at it.
can't make decisions based off of
Mhm.
this.
Okay, I think
Okay.
what it does is it shows us, these are the kinds of things that they're looking at being creative with. They're saying they need $1.8 million more. Okay, so we're saying that we're not gonna give them 1.8 million. We want to give them some, I know Steve and I are in agreement that we want to give them more. I think that you guys have an appetite for at least a little bit of something. But what, I guess, what would the ad be to get us, what if we made that number like $600,000, which I don't like, but like just for fun? Like,
well,
what
they
does that
pick
do?
out whatever they want.
And they pick out whatever they want, give them a round number because it's not tied to something very specific, right? What does that do to the mill rate now? For 20 points,
28.7.
So I
Okay.
think you all should know that at the last Board of Ed meeting, the chair asked his members whether they were in agreement that based on whatever money we were to add, if we added any money back, that they would do what the superintendent has suggested, and they would do it in this order. So we can ignore the list if we want, but they're not going to ignore the list. And Joe had made it clear to us that in our
But that's
working
because the Board of
relationship.
Ed has to vote on it.
And that's
If-
fine.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
I'm
that's
just saying,
their,
I'm
this
just
is their
saying-
territory.
To-
It's not ours.
That's right. I cannot give them money and say you must spend it on a pre-K teacher.
Because what
Yeah,
happens
but-
if we turn around and we restore some of this and these things still go? Seventh grade language still goes. And not saying it will, but
Well, the board,
What
their
if?
board just said that it wouldn't.
But they didn't
That's the
vote.
point.
It wasn't a voting
Mhm.
conversation.
I mean, what would
Well,
happen if we
you're right,
started
it was
firing
not a
teachers
formal
when we have money in the budget to pay those teachers? Like, that sounds to me like something that.
Well,
would-
it's, we, as the Board of Finance, have no say over that.
Of course not, but I'm just
So
saying like
that-
that's,
All right, if you don't wanna look at the
Let's look
items,
at the number.
that's fine. For me, I look at them because I'm trying to understand what makes sense. But if
Mhm.
you wanna just talk about raw dollars, I'm happy to do. That's fine. I
So-
would rather spend the time talking about the amount of money and how it's funded and the impact on the taxpayer.
Mhm.
If
I mean, we could look at the Board of
But
Ed budget.
me,
just look at the things that
logically,
we spend money on in
I
general.
deal with things and to me, it makes sense to relate things.
Mhm.
And it is good
Okay.
to relate things, but
And
at the
but-
end of the day, like, we don't,
You're right. At the end
it
of the
would
day-
be lovely if we could say, yes, we wanna give you back all of these things. But we can't say, these are the things. We can say,
You're correct.
this is the number we're giving you. We trust that, these programs will not go.
But we don't
But,
even have to do that. We
right.
can say, we're gonna add back X number of
right,
thousands of dollars.
And
No,
we-
I agree. That's
And we
all.
trust Joe,
that's-
like Joe does a great job of spending, of
Absolutely.
managing this, like it would be such a bizarre thing if he was like, you know what, we're gonna give $600,000 to hockey this year,
but
you
it
know,
can't
like
be
it's
put
not
on the
gonna
Board of Finance to make
No.
this
Yeah.
decision.
No,
Yeah,
and we wouldn't. All we would
course
do is, and we haven't even done it in the motion. Last year, it was just, do we agree we're putting back $116,000?
And
Now, we knew what we were putting it back for.
Mhm.
We had a spreadsheet, it was in front of us,
Mhm.
but that wasn't in the motion, it wasn't in the approval of the budget, it was nowhere other than. We can't unsee what we've seen, so
Mhm.
how much does each person feel?
Can I speak for a moment? So statutorily, you're correct. I think the workings between the Board of Finance and the Board of Education, if the Board of Finance was putting back specific items, that would be respected by the Board of Ed. I know it will.
Mhm.
I mean, there's a wonderful relationship that's been developed
And
between
they
the
do
boards.
understand that if that didn't happen once, that would be the last time that would happen. So
Right.
they understand that and the relationship has worked well for years. So
Mhm.
I think the spirit of any adjustment would be respected by the Board of Education.
Thank you.
I agree.
Okay.
So to me, it's number one, a dollar value. And number two, is there any appetite, and coming from me, I'm almost shocked that I'm saying it, to look at funding sources. I walked in here not expecting that we would have added another $250,000 from the general fund. To me, and I have no idea how to split this up, but if the main pain point is to keep it from impacting taxpayers. And we took a little bit, and I mean a little, from the general fund. I would be willing to take a little from special ed.
Match it, right?
What's that?
Maybe we match it.
Something like that, and frankly, the stuff in the 248 fund.
I think we should just close it.
Well.
18,000, right? Is
It's
that-
18,000.
Yeah.
We can have another discussion on that at another time to close it, but I mean, I would easily say, take 15,000 from that. It's not gonna make a dent. It's not gonna help a whole
It's a
lot,
cleanup,
but,
it's a cleanup
but
effort.
it's more, yeah.
But
we've-
why
we've
carry a small
established-
balance there? Like, let's
Well, the
just
question
use
is
it.
whether we would put anything in it in the future.
Right.
And there might be reasons to do that, but not ones that I wanna have a conversation about tonight. Frankly. The special ed reserve, I'm looking at it two ways. Number one, they continue, even though they run over in various line items, they've never come to us because they've been able to solution it in-house. Either within other line items in their budget or within their bigger you know, within their overall budget, not just within special ed. One day that may not happen. Their student population this year, from December when the budget was presented until last week at the Board of Ed meeting, their population has grown 6%. Every time they have a student, it's a new record. We're now at 19% population. And so I know, because I've analyzed what happens. They book their budget on what they have the census in December. Or even November when Joe does it. And they always get more kids, so they always run the risk. So far, they haven't had to tap into it. Could we take a little bit? I think we could, because I don't think they're gonna tap into it this year, based on what I heard at the meeting. They're gonna return a small surplus, and that's my second point. If we took 100,000, pick a number, and they return 100,000, we could, or whatever they return, we could put it right back in the fund, you know,
In the special.
2 months later from now. Because it's coming back to us and we can rebuild that fund. So
So what is that, Ron, is there an updated number on that? Like, the year's not closed yet, but
As far as what,
what you might
Surplus.
return,
I'm not sure we're gonna return anything. I think we're gonna be able to
Zero?
hopefully cover some of the items in the green there.
so when you say return nothing, you mean like $10?
Right now, special ed, you know,
Okay,
special ed is, even with the extra excess cost money we're getting, it's looking break even. Now, having said that, over the next, you know, she's still writing new purchase orders, okay, so there are encumbrances that exist today that didn't exist yesterday. Having said that, she'll probably be able to liquidate some POs closer to the end of the year for things that didn't materialize. Right now, the special ed looks like it's tracking at about break even. Okay, electricity's gonna run over, to the best of my projection, right around 150 to 175. Natural gas is running, we're running okay with natural gas, so we should be able to offset some of the electricity overage with natural gas. Not a lot, but a little. And then health insurance is running well. Okay, so I'm anticipating covering a lot of the overage in electricity with the health insurance, but I'm also projecting, you know, and I'm, let's see what, I don't have,
what do you like, for the 250?
no, I want Joe's original. So, with the overage in the current year, surplus, not overage, surplus in the current year that I'm projecting with health insurance, I'm looking to prepay some of the retirement payments for next year. So being able to use and the Chromebook money, so the 250 and the 75 here are projected is basically
Spend ahead.
spend heads.
And that's like basically what your overage is projecting to be.
Yes, yeah.
So you're gonna use it on this, so that's,
So this will be the lowest amount of money returned to the town in many, 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 many years.
That's the way I'm
Okay,
projecting it.
that's fair.
I mean, with 3 months left, that's the best, best
Okay,
projection.
so that sort of just gives me a limit of, you know, how much I would, so we're sitting with what do we say, 1.2 million in special ed reserve?
1.25.
1.25, yeah. So do I anticipate needing any of the special ed reserve this year? I do not.
Okay.
Okay. So we should have 1.25 at the end of the year,
So
or close to it.
just for throwing out numbers, if I took 250,000 from special ed, still leaves them with a million. Assuming we get nothing back from the town gets nothing back from the Board of Ed. Plus we take 15,000 just for round numbers from the 248A. And maybe we take 100,000 from the general fund and we use, that's 365,000 to offset whatever we put back. And if we're at 972, we put back 360 and the other six, whatever.
I'm sorry,
610.
can you repeat that?
I'm not sure I can.
Oh,
because
sorry.
I'm doing
I followed you, so instead of 1.25, you do 1, and then the 15 for round numbers, but really it's 18. And then
General, right?
another
The two.
100,000 from
General.
unassigned fund balance,
Yeah,
and then you said the number 12. And I
A
lost.
million from the special ed fund?
no,
No.
no, 250
250 from.
250 out of the one,
1.25.
Mhm.
plus 100,000 from the general fund, plus 15,000.
Why don't we just
Is-
close out that account?
I know.
Just,
15,000 is the 18,000, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the 248A.
yeah,
Yeah. And so that would be a total of
10
365, just because it's easy for me.
And then we're
Okay.
not putting
And then
1.25 in the special ed this year.
we're not putting anything,
We're not budgeting
we're
that
not
this year.
assuming anything's coming back.
Right.
Okay, so we're taking that from
Not
fiscal
taking-
year 20, but fiscal year 25, right? And we're
No.
reallocating it
No, no,
That
no,
was
for
always
fiscal year
surplus.
26.
no, the
that was
fund,
always
the special ed fund today is
Mhm.
sitting with 1.25 million
Right.
in it.
Right.
so you're asking for putting,
And
we
I'm
have
gonna
allocated
take-
more
I'm gonna
money for
take
25, 26.
250,000 out of it, which will leave it with a balance of 1 million.
We don't have a line item funding it this year.
We don't have a
Okay.
line item fund.
We
Thank
always
you.
funded it where it's
We-
surplus.
Yeah, so
Okay.
if the board was to return any money, we could, in July 1st, put it back
Mhm.
in the fund and build that what would be 1 million up
Back
to
up.
whatever they are.
Mhm.
But he's telling me treat it as zero, don't treat it as zero, which means we would go into next year with $1 million backstopping special ed.
Right, okay, so
That's-
instead
that's
of
the
How do you feel about
1.25,
that?
it's,
Yeah.
How do you feel about $1 million, reducing it by two? We have a
Yeah,
representative
reducing by
here,
250.
but like, what do you
Oh,
think?
addressing Sheila, I'm sorry.
I mean, Jen does an amazing job managing that budget. She plays with the grants really well.
Mhm.
But we've also gone up.
Yeah.
You know, 19% of our population is identified with special ed needing supports. That's the highest percentage we've ever been. We've always been way under the state average and
Mhm.
now we're not. I think Jen would feel okay with it,
Yeah.
knowing that, you know what, if we end up with 4 kids who move in tomorrow who all need to be outplaced at $300,000 a year, we're gonna be asking to be on your agenda
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
say, there's just no way we can pull that.
I mean, we've got contingency as well, so.
Yeah, well,
if-
yeah, it's
I mean,
But
the
the
town's also got contingency, but I tell you what, just. I mean, this is one of the places where I say we've never used it, and she does a wonderful job, and I know, and yes, I'm knocking on wood, I'm knocking on, I get it. We have until Thursday, till our meeting on Thursday to make a decision. I'd be interested in getting an opinion from Jen
Oh, that's
and
great,
even,
Mark.
and from Jill.
Yeah,
Cause like
awesome.
different
I-
children are at different costs, right,
Yeah.
depending on what their needs
Yeah.
are. We
Exactly.
can get like the number of kids at one tier versus the next tier, or if we can see like what the
She's
average
got all
cost per
that,
student is,
yeah.
something to that effect.
there's a great website. What is that website that has all of those statistics? It's through the state of
Ed site?
Connecticut.
Ed site.
Yes,
Yeah.
Was it-
they
was it-
have Ed site. They have all of the
Ed site.
statistics. I'll text it to you if you
Okay,
want.
no, that'd be great. I love
Okay.
that. Because, you know, a million
Sorry.
sounds like a lot of money,
You want
but like you
people-
said, it's an expensive
A couple
thing.
high cost kids, yeah, so
Right,
So what I would,
I will say the finance director would like 1.25 in there more than one. Having said that, the town has a general fund too, that if something ever blew up in the district and we're legally obligated to,
Pay.
you know, cover those costs, we would be coming to this, you know, the
Mhm.
Board of Ed would be coming to the
Mhm.
Board of Finance, Town Council, and you know. if
And there's a
needed.
Board of
Yeah,
Finance
the-
contingency
Yeah,
fund
the
now with
town
five
is the
hundred
ultimate
thousand dollars
backstop.
in
And
it.
remember, we didn't
Worst
have this
case,
fund for
you know.
many, many years. This is a new construction that we
Right.
put in.
It's a safety net.
It's a safety net.
Which is good to
and-
have.
And it's a safety net for the school system. And that safety net is backed up by the town and the town's contingencies. So,
Yes,
so
yes.
we've got, so for the
Safety
school
net for the
system, we've got a
safety net.
safety net for the safety net.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Again, I have always said, and I will continue to say, I defer to the professionals. I just think it's personally think it's very low risk. What I'd like to know is if we could get an opinion from Joe and Jen. And without creating, a discussion point, have that email to the board as part of our agenda or whatever, treat it as public communication for our next meeting,
Mhm.
but, send it out before the meeting.
And Steve, clarifications, you're looking for them to be, say that it's okay
To
to
take
two hundred and fifty
250,000.
out of the 1.25
Five.
contingency for special ed.
Yeah,
Okay,
yes. And we want to use that to help pay for whatever it is we put back into the request for next year.
well, that's your decision.
That's our
He's just saying
That's right.
he's comfortable with
Yeah,
taking out the
Mhm.
250,000. Okay.
So assuming we do this 368, 5, whatever it is.
well, that's 365.
Mhm.
We were at 970.
Well, let's not look at that. What if we just, so we're not looking at the numbers, okay? What if we put 550 into the
Where's the other?
increase, instead of 600, we do 550? Cause I'm looking at just in general, like, not quite a million, but kind of half of what their ask was,
I would put-
originally.
Well, I would make the
I'm
number actually
curious.
match. But
Well-
I think we have to deal with a real number though. Sam,
Well, I'm just,
if putting back the green box is an actual number, 971,876. And we're gonna fund that in two ways. One through these three funding sources of 365, and the remainder, which would be 607,
mhm.
we would be adding back to the
I was thinking.
to what the taxpayers are paying.
That's a way my mind works, and I think, I mean, as someone who has two, soon to be three kids in the school system, like I think in this way, I can't help it. But trying to put that aside and think of it as just money you're giving to them, giving to the Board of Ed.
Mhm.
If they ask for 1.85 million, we're finding 365 outside of the taxpayers. What could get us halfway to that 1.85 million, right? Maybe that, like, that's another way to like
That's an
kind of,
even bigger number, sure.
yeah, so like that's what is going through my head. If we can't, 1.85 isn't on the table clearly, but we can meet them halfway, and not even halfway, because we're finding 200 and whatever, $68,000 from their own funds that we're reallocating, right? So I'm just trying to think about this in a way that is, palatable, that makes sense, that is giving them their freedom to kind of allocate that money in a way that works for them. It's not taking, 971,000 and giving it back to them. It's saying, here's an amount of money that can cover some of the things that you really want to do. And we see that your plan shows some really great ideas for how you would spend that money. I think that this is something that we could all stomach, and this is something that we would all promote. We wish we can give you all the money. But this is something that I think maybe could work, right?
I think it's a pretty good shot
I think we're using
bit.
4.25 out of the general fund and that petrifies me, so.
Because what does that look like next
What does
year?
that look like
After-
next year?
Or-
Like,
Well,
we
Is there a-
can't
It
sustain
still
that.
kept us
No.
above,
You keep it at
right?
a certain
We're,
amount.
we're at the
No.
high end of the range
We're-
of, based on our budget.
And your general funds are working as donations, or how does that work?
The general fund
Okay,
is
good.
prior to your
Taxes.
surplus.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay, all right.
Yeah.
I know,
Wait,
you know.
Wait, a minute, what, did he have a
We
chart?
fund it every year and we have
Yeah.
like a certain threshold that we, as the board of finance, would like to look at. And
Is this chart
we
in
are
this book? In his presentation?
on the high end of where we
His
would like to be.
presentation-
And
But
what's
we've
the
been
rate?
using more and
I don't
more
think the
year over
presentation is
year
not-
What-
to offset
Terry's
tax
presentation.
increases.
Terry-
So at
wait a
one
minute.
point is.
No, you're right.
using And using and using and using going to hurt us.
I mean, and we're also at a, I think that this is a very critical year, right? Because of the
Absolutely.
revals and because of the change in our mill rate. I
We
think
have
that
to.
now that the property values are what they are, right? Like I know that there are some, appeals, but they are what they are. The mill rate is what we toggle, not property values. Like our floor is much higher than it used to be. Because most of our income comes from residential properties, not commercial. So if we look at it from that perspective, this $4 million is to take some of the hurt away from the residents this year.
Mhm.
But next year, we are still going to be at this property that, like, there's going to be more people moving in, there's more new developments. We're going to be increasing that grand list and we already set a basis for a higher tax valuation. I just think this is kind of not a don't want to say a temporary problem, because there, like Steve said, there are some structural things that need to be addressed. But I also think that with this higher basis for what we could be earning money from as a town to provide these services to everyone who lives here, I think that it's going to that piece is going to start alleviating itself over time.
Can Heidi pull up his presentation with that has the
The
the general fund spreadsheet in it?
Heidi, could you go on the town
Steve, do
website
you
and
have your
pull up,
grand list spreadsheet?
Terry's
Actually,
presentation?
we have the grand list spreadsheet because I was just listening to what you're saying, Sam. About having this basis. For.
You're
your
talking
grand
about the
list
general
spreadsheet,
fund.
Yeah, it's
how
like the little
you-
chart
how
that shows like over
Yeah.
keep
time.
Track of like the revals
Oh,
and all of those things, but
Well,
we have
well, thi-
something
thi-
like that.
well, this
here.
is just my personal one, but yeah,
Oh.
oh,
You had something really interesting a couple of weeks ago at one of the workshops. And it was every single referendum and every single
Oh.
bill rate we've ever had.
oh, yes, okay, not grand list. The grand list isn't there, but the mill rate.
Keep
Yeah.
scrolling, Heidi.
Back
It's the,
into it.
Yeah.
So we could
I think
calculate
that-
our
Well, data type
residential
fund balance probably good
increase
to look at too, right?
year over year
Scroll back
on
to the fund balance.
after
one.
reval, so every year.
That one right
What's
there.
our
I'm gonna get
residential
closer.
increase? In the grand list, and what are we using from the general fund to offset tax increases? And is it comparable to what we're taking? Is what we're increasing, balancing what we're taking from the general fund? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so my whole point is, I think we need to look at this year, yes, but we also have to have a forward-thinking mindset.
Oh, I agree. So there's the chart from Terry's presentation.
No,
The upper
We've
black
taken a lot this
line
year.
okay.
is our policy. The red is what our balance will be under Terry's proposed budget, taking the 4 million. So obviously it doesn't
That's
include
already
the
with the 4 million
425.
out.
That's taking the 4 million out. That's why the red is dropping
Mhm.
in that last
Makes
vertical
sense.
bar. It is still above our policy, number
Our
one,
maximum
And
policy.
our maximum policy, number one, and number two, it does not include any surplus that we will add to that at the end of this year.
If,
Say-
if the.
If the town has a
Yeah.
surplus.
Yeah, and
But we-
there's
Wait,
a
how is that?
chance we won't because we have an unassigned fund balance that,
You said
we
that
have this
earlier.
year, so yeah, I think this is a pretty good, but we're still above the max.
Mhm.
We're still above the max.
Yeah,
Even without the 4 million.
yeah.
4 million's already out of there.
From 4 million
4 million has been assumed.
to be gone.
We have assumed it's to be gone, that's that
That's right.
gap, yeah.
So let me ask this one. the board's gonna return zero, the board's gonna have no surplus. Is the town this fiscal year gonna have a surplus?
So. Yeah, we have a structural deficit built into the budget, right? With the assignment of fund balance, that balances the budget. Okay, I don't anticipate we're gonna have a surplus this year.
So we're using everything that we
I
budgeted.
think, yeah, I don't think we'll need to use all of our unassigned fund balance, that was assigned in the
Okay,
budget.
so we get nothing back.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
So
think
this-
in previous years, there were a lot of open positions.
And we
that
had
were-
what,
and this, they've been filled this year, so.
2.4?
What is that?
2.6?
What is the,
For what?
that number,
From
the top of the
unassigned
red
fund
bar?
balance last year?
I can't see
It's
it
like-
from here.
19 million or something?
It's 18 point, we're at 18.1%, which is
Oh.
it'll be just shy of 20 million
Yeah,
is the projection. Right now, we're at like
right, and,
23.
and the black line should be whatever.
That's
So the bottom line is, we're above our maximum policy, we're allowed to go all the way down to that lower black
Which
line.
we don't wanna do.
I don't even wanna go below, I don't like these three lines, but that's another story.
We've talked about it.
I know, we have. I was surprised when the board did this, but anyway. The answer to your question, we're still gonna be above. Even if we return zero.
But then what happens next year?
Right, and the year after, in the next 5 years that we're dealing with
Well,
these
now we-
values,
now
and
we
what if
get-
the
now
grand
we
list
get it-
doesn't grow the way that,
What if people
need
sell their
for
house and
funds
move out of
grow.
Monroe?
Well,
Because the
most-
taxes are so
mo-
high.
Most years.
Well, then the Board of Ed won't need as
Yeah,
much
well,
money.
But it-
will
But
they?
you know,
right,
what
so
if
most
it's-
years are saying it only grows up. if
right,
they
so
have
over the
someone-
next 5 years,
Play
we're
what?
seeing a nominal growth in the real estate grand list. The
Correct,
motor vehicle grand list will be dropping more and more every year as this new legislation has gone into effect. There's many more property tax exemptions that people will qualify for that the town will have to offset the cost of and not get reimbursed for. So there's so many different things, and we are just taking to help.
I agree.
Yeah, no, that makes
I
sense.
am concerned about the 4 million or the 4.25 or the 4.35, whatever. We have to find a way to wean ourselves off.
Mhm.
This-
Four is a lot.
I do think
Yeah.
though, the fact, though, if we look at the way that the grand list shook out this year. Commercial property is looking pretty attractive right about now in town.
Yeah.
And that is like, that's a strategy right there to take some of that burden off of the residential. And continue that expansion because the taxes did not increase very much at all for the existing spaces. I know when you build, they're gonna get revalued and it's gonna be more expensive baseline, but still, like it's. I don't know, it just seems
Yeah.
to me like it's going to, there's opportunities for us.
We have to find a way to do two things. Number one, figure out what our town's needs are going forward. Everything that's built into a contract,
Mhm.
every new program or whatever that we want to add, somebody wants to add, because right now, it's not being captured anywhere. I mean, the town doesn't, we don't see it on the town side, right? So if Terry says to only come back with a 2% increase, and somebody doesn't even put a head count in that they think they need, or the library, or last year we had the social worker
Mhm.
situation.
Right.
We've got to capture all of that stuff. And we've got to figure a way to get rid of our dependence on taking money from. Now, what Ron's saying is this is the first, we've been carrying contingency and been carrying money from the grand list,
Mhm.
not grand list, excuse me, from the general fund that we haven't needed to use
Mhm.
because we've been running surpluses. So, I mean, the other thing to point out, which a lot of people don't recognize, is this town has never actually budgeted to put money into the general fund. The rainy day fund, as it used to be called, which is why it never grew. I mean, if you trace that line back further, it was always really very small, and the town was taking 750,000 out each year as a normal part of funding operations. And it wasn't until that was shut down that we began to add. And of course, then we had some of the big bumps were, we were overly conservative, right? With the state's fiscal issue a number of years ago, and we said, no, we're not gonna get any money from the state, and we did. But
So when they took the 750 out, did they zero it out then, or?
yeah, eventually, yes, they decided, it was decided that the town would no longer take that 750 out, and the taxpayers would pay for whatever that covered. And that was fine, and then we got up and we got above our number, and we've had a lot of.
But just remember, like that strength, that posture gets us the best bond rating.
Yeah, oh, yeah, well, the black line gets you your bond rating. I mean, that's the number that
And
they
even
say
having
you're supposed to have.
contingencies and like
Can-
all of that.
And that's
Yeah.
just undesignated, we still have
Right.
designated on top, but when they were having a presentation, the board, because I wasn't on the board, and the question was asked, what number should we have in that fund? And they came back and said 2 months. Person who asked the question, who shall remain nameless, but was sitting in that chair, nearly fainted because they didn't like us keeping taxpayers' money. But that's what the black line is, what gives us, contributes to our bond rating. So,
So,
yeah, I don't want to go below the upper black. I really don't,
and we're not talking about going below
and we're
it.
not going.
And we have other contingencies built in to further prevent this from happening. And I think it's our job to help make this fiscal year strong and fine. And I mean, we can't make the decisions about what, the P and Z is going to be, provisioning there. We can't make decisions about a lot of things, but we can, there's opportunities for us to work with these departments and kind of help develop some kind of strategic plan under Terry Rooney. Like we could do that, and that's something that, I think that we're the numbers people. We see what the impact of the spending is and what the impact of, generating new revenue can do, and that's something we can help with. I mean, we can't tell Board of Ed what to spend their money on, but we can help these other, boards and commissions really think wisely about the next choices that they're making. And maybe working together with them is the solution as opposed to being, complaining about what we can and can't do. And
this board has always been conservative, and I think that's good. Sometimes we've been proven to be too conservative. And maybe we learn that when we look at collection rates and things like that, and we upped it a little last year. Back in the quote financial crisis with the state, we were way too conservative because we thought the sky was falling. Like the board.
Nobody
thought
knew.
Yeah.
Nobody knew.
well, yeah,
But,
better to be conservative in those
but,
uncertain times, right?
People can complain that we were sometimes too conservative. Conservative is good. I'd rather err being a little conservative. I personally, and so I think we're covered. I wouldn't. And I said it when I first saw Terry's budget, the 4 million is not something that I would have ever considered before, but when I'm sitting second bar from the right over, it's sort of hard to make the argument that we shouldn't be helping
Right.
Yeah,
the
to take more
taxpayers.
I
tax.
think we all agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's a
That's right,
crutch.
you can't do that for
So-
3 or 4 years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's my point.
So
And what did we do last year? I don't remember.
we had 2.5 million.
I think it was
2.5
like
million.
2.3 to 2.6. In that range is
Yeah.
what we took, and now we're at
But
4.
yeah, we had started the year with a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, if you
right?
look in Terry's, budget, if you
Can
look
you,
in the line item in the budget, you'll see the increase. It
Can
was.
you go
it was
back to the
2,000.
base budget?
So it was, we started the year with what, 4? A 4 surplus?
Mhm.
Go to revenue,
So we had a surplus of
But
4, we
we
gave
paid-
back 2, because it looks flat, right? So it makes me feel like our surplus,
I'm not following
covered
what you're saying.
what we were putting into the general fund for the
this-
next,
this-
or taking out of the general fund rather, for
this
that
budget-
fiscal year, right? So we
this
were always operating in that way, where it's like, oh, it's just a
Where
tiny
we're-
thing. right?
Assigned fund balance?
Assigned fund balance from this
At the
year
top.
would have been, I think, 2.5 million
I just wanna see what it was for last year,
this year.
for this year, 25. You might have the column hidden though.
There's one.
2.5.
So,
2.5.
so we ended up being flat essentially between the surplus
So,
versus what we
yeah,
were pulling
so
out.
We have
that year.
2.5 this year and we're going up to 4, but this year, Ron just told us we're gonna use
Yeah.
it. Whereas
We're
the
not
year before,
Mhm.
We didn't use it.
we didn't use it.
And I mean, this
And-
is
and in
why
fact,
we
had
have
a
it.
surplus on
Yeah.
top.
Mhm.
This is why we have the excess taxpayer dollars that have been squirreled
Yeah.
away for years, because there are certain years where crazy things happen. Electric goes through the roof, you know, this is,
No.
right? So, I mean, we're already, the board was comfortable with adding $250,000 or taking additional $250,000 out of the general fund for this contingency. We're talking about taking another $100,000 for something real that we know that our Board of Education needs. I'd rather take $100,000 for education than $250 for just in case. That's my opinion. So if we're talking about not taking $100,000 out of the general fund for education, I propose we change that contingency to 150 and put that other 100 into education.
I don't think we're gonna use it. Because it's covering a contingency and funding a contingency out of the balance and. I know that. I mean, I guess I have to listen to Ron, but I won't, he's gonna be conservative, I think, too.
Conservative.
Yeah. I think that's a fair statement. So I'm okay. I mean, I'd be okay taking it up to 4,350,000 with that 100,000 going to cover. Reduce the taxpayer's burden of putting some dollars back into education.
I agree.
What does that look like?
What, take another? So
100,000?
So you put the 972 in. You haven't funded it through the 3 mechanisms we talked about.
how much? 9?
Well,
Well,
you put the 972.
yeah, so put the 972 in.
And then we'll start
We're
We're
subtracting.
gonna be, well, you're saying to fund 365
So
with
I'm
others.
looking for 3 outside sources of revenue.
Okay, so that would be assigned fund balance.
Assign
So-
100,000 to add 100 more thousand to the assigned fund
Yeah,
balance.
so change that 100 to, change it to 365. We're actually assigning fund balance. It's just fund balance
Oh,
from
some of it's from
the
the,
special ed fund and from the 248.
Oh, you treat it as one
We'll break it for purposes now.
for
let's just-
purposes of
yeah.
now. I understand.
Okay, but we'll
Okay.
get to that line item where that
Breaks out.
125 becomes.
So it's 365 plus the original 250, Heidi, so it would be,
I'm confused.
is that?
Oh, I get it.
saying
I get
right?
it. I'm with
Yes,
you. There was a
you are.
250
Yes.
for the Board of
You
Finance
are.
contingency plus 365.
So now run it
Okay.
down to the bottom. And we would drop the,
Did that make sense to everyone?
Yeah.
yes, we are just putting all of the money in one line for the time being.
It is assigned, we
Fund.
are assigning fund balance, it's just not from the general fund, it's
Fund.
from other funds.
Mhm.
Okay. They're not called out.
It's a mill rate, what's the,
Goes up 1.14.
And that was with the 972 or something in there, right? For the Board of Ed.
That's a 4%. Is that 4%?
it's an expenditure
4.18.
increase of 4.18%.
What's 4.1?
Expenditure increase.
Heidi, you go down to the mill rate. So the mill rate would be 28.76.
But I'm not following. But 20, I just confused myself. So,
No, so by
You wanna
putting
take
in,
a
by putting it,
recess or
Yeah, the bio breaks.
bio break?
okay,
Yeah, I think we can. Everyone wants to stretch.
sure.
Okay. So it's 8 o'clock on the dot. Just take
I
like
don't-
a 10-minute break.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep the recording going.
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Cause I don't,
I have to take a break.
if I stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah, who knows what'll happen, right?
Yeah, God only knows.
Do they recycle here or does it just go in the trash?
So that drops it from 28.87 to 28.76. Compared to,
But we put in the 972. Was that like
Yeah.
subtracting it out?
no, that's putting it in, that's adding it.
That's the expenditure.
Oh,
side.
yes,
We're
yes. We're adding the
You're adding
972, but we're
that.
pulling in,
adding-
yeah.
now we got to fund it out
So,
of it, yeah.
Gotcha,
you're,
gotcha.
and you're funding a subset of that. Out of the general fund.
Okay, that makes sense. It was like.
So if you hadn't funded it out of the general fund, you'd be 8.87. And if you fund some from the general fund, you're looking at 28.76.
I mean, that's,
And originally,
Phenomenal.
28.61.
Brother, older brother, 75, my sister 70.
And
81.
even though we're not gonna talk about an individual item, if they don't need this.
Oh, yeah.
They're a first grader at Monroe Elementary, they can use it on stipends and an inventory specialist or whatever the hell they want.
well, I thought that they were taking the cybersecurity specialist and the town was taking
Oh,
that.
yeah, we have to.
Did that ever happen? Did that ever happen?
Cybersecurity specialist, that Terry said he would pick up from the
He kind of
board.
said it like.
Yeah, so you know what? That's a good point. I don't know if.
We need to talk about that.
Because that's not an ask then for the town, for the Board of Ed, but then that would be an ad for the town that we'd have to put in, right?
Because that wasn't-
I mean, the bottom line, it's not gonna change the numbers.
I mean, it's not a
It's going
huge
from
dollar.
It's going from one pile pocket to the other.
It's crazy.
Yeah, but I will say this, right now, those are funded as halftime positions. That's it.
Ah.
Oh, so then they probably don't have
Yeah,
any
but
benefits
either-
or anything?
either the board funds another half, or the town funds the whole. I mean, the taxpayer doesn't care.
Luckily, like a lot of our.
No, but right now they're not funded at all. They're funded half, They're not funded in their entirety, which is useless. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
40 years. December is 80%.
I don't wanna,
I still. I
I don't wanna have a meeting while we're at recess.
Yeah, yeah, so that's just a note. It's just a geography thing.
To stay busy.
Yeah. Yeah, Monroe's former police captain.
Yeah,
Security. Yeah, Mike.
We graduated high school together.
Oh, did you really?
My kids are flying out. My grandson, actually, my daughter, my grandson goes to Monroe.
Do you know Nicole
I went to
Kane,
Monroe.
Kane?
From. Open up and.
She lives in Fairfield now.
You're 16.
She, yes, this because I told her I was on the Board of Finance, Monroe, she goes, oh, I know Ron. Like, she's got,
Oh, yes, I do know.
she's got 5 boys, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
That just goes.
So her
structure is-
daughter, Lizzie.
Oh,
Gretchen plays
I'm
softball.
looking at.
Ah, okay.
Custodian.
Yes, when you said.
It's still the same class.
It's probably been
Yeah, it was probably
Been almost 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah, she's got a brain like a steel trap, that one, so, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So one of my clients is Maplewood Senior Living, and that's where she works, and actually, another funny thing, Joe's son is dating someone else, someone who works there, and they just bought a house in Monroe like not too long ago together, so Corey Sheeb, me and her work together all the time, so it's like there are these weird like connections of Maplewood and Monroe. Mhm.
Played football through.
Yeah, so Corey Sheedy's sister,
Played my sophomore year.
Sam,
through my
played
sophomore year.
softball, daughter also.
Ah,
Yeah.
Yeah, did you play?
That's funny.
yeah, but she's running all over the place for Maplewood, traveling to Ohio and Massachusetts and whatever, so, but yeah. Funny thing, small world.
Yeah, it is.
My husband's like, can you bring dinner home? And I'm like,
Nope.
It will be open.
I was supposed to stop for pizza last week and I was like,
Yeah.
thing's open and it's down after.
Honestly, after this meeting, maybe, I just got a notification, I've had a stressful day. No, I mean, I know that we're going back and forth, but I think that we're all like working through it. I think that this has been good.
Are we all, Heidi, you good to go?
What do I know?
And
I started.
Rebecca?
Yes,
Okay, just making sure you were
Talk
awake.
about the cybersecurity positions.
Yeah,
And it's a-
just to-
we do.
Oh, yeah, those are happening, right?
Well, no.
The cyber
Well,
stuff.
that's the issue.
Yeah, so,
Okay, are we done?
Sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
so,
Well,
it's-
I'm-
hold on, 8:06, we're all back, so.
Yeah.
Just for the recording.
Sorry. Are we done tonight on education? Because, or do you want to come back to give them the hour? I don't know, but in the break, I said around, what are we doing with the cybersecurity people? Person, half.
Yeah, and the
people,
inventory person, someone
because-
else was brought up.
Because it was in Joe's budget, it was in the school system's budget. It's one of the things that was lower on their priority. Terry made its statement several places that the town would pick it up if the board could not or would not. And I don't know how that will work in terms of an employment contract, but that's neither here nor there, but the money has to be someplace.
Mhm.
And frankly, to the taxpayer, it doesn't matter to what bucket it's in.
Mhm.
so,
Well, if it's
But-
supporting
but-
Board of Ed, there has to be a line item on the Board of Ed side for it. So I would not have it in the yellow. I mean,
Well, again, we can't tell them how to spend
exactly,
it,
but
so.
that's. I
But
mean,
it
So
does
they
have
don't-
to be a line item there if
Yeah.
it's support, if the position is supporting.
The Board of Ed.
Yeah. So just a question of,
Very technically funded, so
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't.
maybe
I
we
would
just
normally
leave it
agree with you,
alone
except-
and it could be a
except I'm
transfer or
supporting what
something.
Terry has said publicly.
But even if it, like,
Yeah, it has to be someplace. It could be on the town side. It could
Well,
be a 1.0
We
instead of
could
0.5.
leave it and then like, it's always you could do a transfer between, right, with the budget transfer between those two tabs of the town to see what.
I
would
don't-
that be a bargain position? How does that work?
so IT positions are actually, they're Board of Ed employees.
Okay.
And there's a 50% allocation to the town side. That's how.
Okay,
Whereas my position is the reverse of that. I'm a town employee and I'm allocated to the Board of Ed. But all IT positions are Board of Ed, they're all Board of Ed employees.
And they're unaffiliated, so they're
Yes,
not
they're-
a part of a bargaining unit contract.
okay.
Okay.
So this, even though it would be absorbed fully by the town. Right, because that's what we're saying, this position would be fully absorbed by the town, it would still be. Board of Ed and then 50% to the town?
Yes.
So where do you show it? Where do you show the town employee, the town half?
The town half, Heidi, you wanna go to up to IT in the base budget? And the salary and benefits, 50% of the salary and benefits are allocated
Mhm.
over.
Okay,
So IT salary and benefits, see that one line item?
So all IT is,
Now,
In school?
they're all,
they're employees of,
they're employees of, and there's a
but they're
50.
counted here.
With the exception of 2 IT employees, the rest are allocated 50-50.
And those two work full-time out of the high school on data and our Power School, our student system.
So here's my conundrum. We need a full time, we need one FTE person accounted for in the overall budget.
For both of those,
Financially.
yes.
If the school system says, as they have, it's not a high priority, it's in fact the fourth from the bottom of their yellow,
Mm.
meaning they don't want to fund it, given the other reductions. And yet Terry said he would fund it. So if it's out of theirs, out of the Board of Ed, that the town's dollar value has to be increased by that half person.
and then the town has one whole person.
One whole person budgeted. It will be a Board of Ed employee, so they can cross
With
pay.
100%
I don't care how they
allocation
do
or
it.
whatever, yeah.
But it has to, Tell me I'm wrong. It has to
You're,
show.
no, you're not wrong. I agree. It would,
So-
that number would have to be increased in order for the position to be funded
To
fully.
be funded full. So we have. I don't.
And do
I
they
don't see-
have to be Board of Ed employees, or would this be like a town employee?
The,
This is
the
where, like,
person
the
would be
nitty-gritty
working
is a little
underneath
bit-
Paul Course. Yeah,
Okay.
no, I mean, that's the,
just the
that there's an
organization.
MOU
Right.
that exists between the town and the Board of Ed. That, and the
Okay.
sharing of the staff.
So we
I
need,
think that, you know, without blowing up the whole department and starting from scratch, I think
Okay,
this
So-
is working and it needs to, yeah.
yeah, so to be complete financially, so that somebody can go out and hire appropriately skilled individual, we need to increase that number, the salary and benefit line, by another half person.
Another 40,
Well,
Well,
you're talking, yeah, so you're
before the
looking at
fully loaded.
49 plus
Plus
the
benefit.
other one.
And plus.
Well, I'm assuming in some detail underneath that line, you've got the same, you've got that same 49 plus benefits.
Yeah,
So however you built that line.
it's on this.
no, this was one of the low priority ones, so I think we never got rid of the position.
Yeah, that's
So
all.
would
I don't know,
this
we're talking about half of the person's benefits.
half person?
I mean, it's not like
That's not-
that big of a difference, I feel like.
Oh,
No,
I get it,
no,
I get it, I get it, I get it, I get it. Thanks.
I don't,
So does Paul have to come back with that
So
number
fully
for us?
loaded number.
no, I probably have it on a
That's
spreadsheet.
salary.
Okay.
You want like what the
Plus
add back
benefits.
would be to add both of those half positions back?
So what-
Well, there's an inventory specialist as well. And I'm not sure, he was more adamant about the IT specialist. I think, I don't know if the inventory specialist was
The,
something. that
yeah,
he
the
was-
inventory specialist, part of the role was to, you know, keep track of the inventory of all the
Chromebooks.
Chromebooks on the Board of Ed side. That was probably not entirely, but it was probably at least you know, the need was probably more on the board side with the one-to-one Chromebooks.
But then the rest of their position would be as a tech that
Yeah.
supports
Okay,
both
Both
the
sides.
town side and.
I mean,
board
there would
side.
be a one-to-one split and there would be a crossover and you could go through every one of his staff and, you know. Some weeks they're, you know, some weeks they, you know, Brian Daly, I'll use him. He may be in the police department all week. He may be at the high school,
school,
you know,
Mhm.
I mean, he's, you know. Those guys run all over the place.
So the bottom line is,
why can't we?
the school system wasn't going to fund, was going to give up both of those half positions. We haven't talked about any number that would get them included. So both of those other halves that were at one point in the Board of Ed's proposal needs to be added on the town side.
Since, just throwing
Just
stuff
gonna do
here, I can't talk about what the needs are. I don't
No, well,
understand that, but.
Paul has
when it-
Paul has talked about the needs, and I don't think anybody who follows what's going on in this world of cyber
Mhm,
and the attacks and all of the,
mhm,
well, hell, we saw it in our meeting.
Yeah.
So,
mhm.
you know,
Look, and
that's-
I think, I don't want, you know, I'll speak for the first selectman because he's not here. You know, I know Terry's stance is he wants
he
those
wants,
positions.
and he's made that publicly. That's right, and I'm not speaking for him, I'm quoting what's in the record. So you guys need to put those numbers in.
Okay, so
before
we will,
Thursday.
so for Thursday, we will add back the,
You will add to the town,
is everyone in agreement with that?
the two half-time positions fully burdened.
Does that include, that already includes the other half of them, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
This
So it's only
include,
half.
the other half is already included in the 506,
Mhm.
so we just need to roll in the 0.5
Mhm.
that was that came out of the Board of Ed side. I have that number, I'll just reconfirm it with Paul tomorrow.
So other than that,
Can we go up to revenue really quick? Please, Heidi, thank you. I keep forgetting to say please, to you, Heidi.
Yeah, she won't do it unless she's.
I've got my back to you, but maybe it's.
And we got everything changed with the licensing that we talked about last week. Remember, we talked about some of the line items were a little over or under.
I don't recall us making any,
I think we dug into them a lot.
yeah, I don't recall any specific
What do you say?
changes.
Okay, so last week, license and permits, we were at 930, 77% of the budget. Okay, so we were good on that.
Oh,
Okay,
where we stood,
Yeah.
okay.
the motor vehicle property tax grant, what is that? That was taken out.
That was taken out.
All right,
because
I'm
that's
just
the-
going through my notes.
That's a change of the law?
That's because we didn't hit the mill rate cap this year,
Right.
Mhm.
so we're not getting that money. Okay, so.
Oops. On the revenue,
Yeah. I was.
I mean, don't rush, it's the night to do it all.
So, go ahead.
Do you have a breakdown of the delinquency on taxes by type?
Deb would have that, no?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think I was stealing your board pack from.
Hold on.
Yeah, it would be in your last board as well.
I would just like to know what of that delinquent balance is real estate.
Isn't this- There you go, put the real estate and all that.
Because in the
right
master
there.
control. On the bottom,
I don't think it has the breakdown of the
Yeah, it's her
delinquency.
other,
Let's see.
that's just the 23.
Something else.
I can go get a.
It's another like teeny tiny list, right?
Usually it's not.
Oh, it's listing all
I
the
think that's
delinquencies,
the,
right?
that's the suspense list,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Let me
so
see if
that's
I
not
can-
totaling up. By type,
Amendment to the
I
town
remember
code.
Deb saying majority is
real estate.
real estate, but for mortgage companies. The majority is paid by mortgage companies, so it's not a big percentage.
No, but the percent that is delinquent,
think it's
like
this
years
one,
and
right?
years back,
That'd be it. But it doesn't have the types listed.
so
It's
that
blank.
little teeny tiny thing, Sam, that you have.
Mhm. That, yeah, he said it wasn't it. But go for it.
But this, well, it would be better to see like a month to month. So like the 17 through 2022 grand list. The collectible balance is 1.4. So that's not even including everything that's being collected right now.
Mhm.
So total outstanding in taxes from this is 3.8 million. Of that, how much is outstanding real estate? How much is outstanding personal property? How much is outstanding motor vehicle? Because we have it for the 23 up top,
Mhm.
Right, now I understand what you're asking,
right? So
what, and let me ask you, what is that gonna tell you when you get? that
Real
number?
estate's more collectible, right?
maybe we can change the prior year collectible. I don't know.
Okay. I didn't think she wanted to, right?
I think.
Well, she
she's-
didn't want to, there was something that she didn't want to increase the collection rate,
Mhm.
Yeah, she wanted to keep that.
right? Or
Okay.
interest,
Okay,
because interest, you don't know
Yeah.
when
Right.
people are going to pay, who's going to pay, and how much interest they'll have on their accounts.
Mhm.
Now, if she has a tax sale
That's
next
what I'm,
month,
that's what I'm
will
thinking.
that hit, what fiscal year does that hit?
Well, the tax sale would have to be next year.
I think she said she was looking to do a tax sale next year.
Right.
And
Next
that's
year,
why I'm
not next
wondering
month.
about the prior year collectible, but again, like the undesignated fund balance, that's a big chunk of change we're getting
Mhm.
that we won't be able to see for a couple of years because everybody's real estate taxes will in theory have been paid.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
I don't know if I followed you there.
Because of the tax sale.
So if the tax sale happens, basically all of the properties that sell, the tax is no longer delinquent. So that
It goes away.
outstanding tax goes away. So that however
But
many million.
we do collect it.
We collect it, but next year, can we rely on that when we're budgeting?
She's trying to figure out whether we've got enough
But
delinquent to increase. the
so the
amount of
overall
collection.
delinquent, now I don't have the breakout between, but the overall delinquent. Counting what has not been paid for the current year yet is
Mhm.
2,875,000.
Mhm.
Of that. 1,652,000 is current year and 1,223,000 is.
Prior years.
Prior years. Okay, the current year real estate is 809. But some of that will be collected this year. So.
Yeah, so I think the question is, what's the breakdown
Of
of
the
that
prior
1.2,
years. Yeah.
whatever prior years?
And she may have that, it's not, I
It's
don't,
not on the
it's not
sheet.
on the sheet.
Can I write you, at the end of the meeting, can I write down the report I'm looking for?
Can you write down the report to me
request
that you're
it for
looking for?
today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And you give it to them.
yeah, for
Mhm.
Deb, like what it's called in QDS.
what is?
Well, she's not gonna ask you a question, she's gonna tell you what report she
Yeah,
wants to
that-
see.
that's
That's
fine,
it.
that's fine.
That's it, that's it.
Or you can, if you could either, if you want, yeah, or email me or email Deb,
Or,
whatever,
I mean,
whatever's
like,
easiest.
what's the process? You want me to email you and then you email?
That's what we've been doing,
Okay.
yeah.
All
If
right.
you email me, then I'll just forward it
Okay.
to
And
Deb.
if, and if I remember, the
Well,
question was like,
just so he knows.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
from last week was like, why did we have, 628 and now we're reducing it to 500? Like, what was the logic there? And I think that she wasn't sure. She just felt like she was very unsure about what the future was gonna hold, and she felt more comfortable lowering the number than what we actually had, what we're pacing for, and what we had
The
collected.
500 for prior year.
Oh,
Yeah, so we have submitted by departments 500,
But that's
500 prior year, but then
But we
like,
set that for her.
mhm,
Yeah,
We set
we
what she
said it,
collects.
so
Yeah.
she tells us what she thinks, and sometimes we
mhm,
change
So-
it a bit.
yeah,
So
so
I'm-
that 98%
mhm,
that we.
yeah, yeah.
So I'm thinking if that 500 could potentially go up,
Mhm,
depending on what the real estate is, but then what risk are we taking on to start leaning on that prior
Mhm.
year collection? When it won't exist next year,
Mhm.
if there's something
If
like a
there's a
tax
sale.
sale. To offset what we're using from undesignated fund
Yeah,
balance.
so we really haven't talked about our collection rate on anything in detail.
Mhm.
Last year, I think, Ron, you pointed me to the CAFR has a table.
There's
A
a
history
table in the
table in
CAFR, yeah, ACFR, it's called that,
What?
ACFR.
CAFR.
CAFR's like DC, right?
What's that?
CAFR's like DC,
No, I
right?
thought that's what it used to be called. What are they changing?
It's,
it? Yeah.
it's
say
a
that.
derogative, you can't say that word anymore.
No.
And
Oh.
Can't say
it's
it.
something in, I don't know,
Oh,
they changed.
Sorry.
it.
Okay.
Just, yeah,
Can't teach an old dog new tricks.
no, believe me, I know.
Okay,
Okay,
so I've got that at home, so I can.
was there, didn't we have something last year, like 3 different collection rate scenarios?
Yeah, we looked at it, because that's what I was saying,
Mhm.
because I had asked Ron and he pointed me to the document, and then we went through and looked at, and I don't know, I may have built a spreadsheet that looked at all of the rates that we had and what we had made.
I think, Heidi, do you want, I mean, what collection rate are we using in the mill rate calc right now? I think it's,
98 something.
I think it's 98.8 or 98.9.
It's-
98.9.
Yeah.
And she comes in around 99. And I think budget, using a higher rate in the mill rate calc, that's as high as
We've
we've ever
gone,
used.
yeah, 98.9.
What were we last year?
98.9.
We,
Okay.
Oh, what was the actual collection rate last year?
No, we set 98.9 last year.
That's what we
yeah, because we
did.
haven't
Oh,
changed it for
yeah.
this year, so right now it's set. It's budgeted for next year, what we set last year. Last year, you are right, we went through and looked in detail.
But I think when we talked to Deb, she was comfortable with that.
I don't,
Yeah.
I don't think she was comfortable going above.
She didn't wanna go
No.
higher.
Right,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't want to put it at 99, that's just. Even though we reach it, we usually exceed it. 98.9.
There have been some years though where we've come in at 98,
Right.
yeah,
Mhm.
so.
There's some years we've beaten 99, but. Yeah, but we did raise it last year
Mhm.
to this.
Mhm.
Yeah, cause we were. a
And I'm
little
trying
bit
to
lower.
remember if we were, I don't remember what the number was, but we were. And then the answer for me is always, okay, let's see what you do next year. She's very, I mean, that's a good number.
Mhm.
I mean.
That's a
if you can
very good
collect-
number.
yeah, if you can collect that rate. Consistently.
All right, so we have some takeaways where we want a report from Deb, we want an email from Joe and Jen on their position. We're gonna talk to Ron, I'm assuming you'll talk to Paul and adding those IT roles. Getting that figure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Becca, what was the first,
Deb, we're gonna email Deb for a report,
that's it.
requesting a report.
And you're gonna email her, or you want me to, I get.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
we'll start the chain.
I'll just send you an email.
Well, yeah, what's the report? Cause email her and I'll follow it up with.
I will
with a
email
visit
you.
calendar.
You on it.
What it's
Okay.
called, yeah.
Okay.
The other, I just wanted to just make one comment, going back to the last meeting. I pulled the, Board of Ed budget versus, return. So last year it was a little over $1 million. That was within 1.65% of budget. The year before it was 590,000, which was 0.91% of budget. The year before that, it was 926,000, which was 1.51% of budget. And then the 2021 number is wacky, but that was
COVID.
post-COVID and stuff, so that number was a weird number.
So on those, what was the total that they used? If they
Of course, I
returned,
didn't actually do that. Well, I guess I could. Hold on.
do you have it there or no?
Do I have it there? No, I just wrote, I just have the amount they returned.
Yes, in the underlying spreadsheet.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I can tell you how much they returned. I can tell you how much they.
You can back into it, use some math to
Right,
find out, right?
I'm sorry, ask me the question again.
So when they reconciled at the end, what was their total amount used?
So you
You subtract
that.
the,
Yeah, I can subtract, so,
do that math, Steve.
okay, I'll send it to you.
Like a brain dead.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do
I
that
don't
in my head now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll add it to this. I'll send you the spreadsheet.
Thank you for doing all that, Steve.
Well, I can't help myself.
So that I column is where we're at right now?
Well, yeah, so. Yes, so what we've got in there is we've got the fund balance, the uses of fund balance, we've got the add back to the Board of Ed, I think at 972.
Yes,
And, I don't know where fund balance, the fund balance was, it was the 365 plus the additional 250. So it was a total add back of fund balance of 615.
365 plus
360, yeah,
250.
350 of that 615 is coming out of the general fund and the balance is coming out of sped and
Mhm.
Yeah,
10-248.
correct. And you'll put, I can't talk. For Thursday, you'll put it in the right place.
So-
If there are, if you need to segregate it.
Yeah, so in the budget, unassigned fund balance, yeah, I mean, I could put, we'll either break it out a separate line and say, you know, general fund and, or honestly, it could probably, I'll double check. I think we could just keep it the way
Leave
it
it like
is,
that?
yeah.
Our records will show that? Well,
Well-
okay, let me ask you.
Which part?
Well, our minutes will show where we're taking it
Yeah.
from.
Yeah,
Okay, so that's one question. If you can put it in that line item, then that won't change the motions that we need
so,
to make.
yeah, so.
That would be the only other question.
Yeah, well, if we don't break it out separate, let me think about that.
Okay.
Because if, at a minimum, we could break it out in a description of the motion for that line
Okay.
item.
You understand what my
Yeah,
concern
Yeah,
is?
I
Okay,
do, yep.
okay.
So the 615 there, Ron, what is that again?
It is
That's the special ed.
it's the two, it's using,
250,
Um,
15. And 100.
mhm.
and the original 250.
Mhm. That was going to the Board of
Finance.
Finance,
It's 250.
contingency.
So it's really,
Oh, 15 is from that.
Yeah.
15 is the
Yeah.
18.
Yeah. Okay.
15 is from.
15 is from 240. 15 is from 248.
Yeah, right, tired.
How many numbers are we gonna throw at each other?
15, 18.
Because we're doing great.
I think so too.
We're doing great.
Yeah,
So instead of 250, 350 is actually coming from the general fund
Directly,
directly.
yes.
250 is coming from the special ed
Mhm.
fund, and then the 15 from the 10-248.
Yeah.
And that's offsetting the 972.
972. That's right.
mhm.
That goes against the 972.
365 of it is technically
Yeah.
offset.
Correct.
Yeah,
And where did we get 972 from?
From Ron's fully
Yeah.
burdened, it's
Yeah.
971, it's actually
This.
nine hundred and seventy-one
Yeah.
thousand eight
and
hundred and
approximately 50%
seventy-six
of the
dollars.
original ask, so
60.
You know.
Well,
a little more than.
yeah.
And what percent increase is that for the town?
On the expenditure side. So the other thing is we haven't
No, it's
added
the
back,
total.
we haven't added back the IT positions.
Mhm.
Right.
Hey Heidi, you wanna do me a favor in the IT?
4.18.
You wanna just add back,
4.18.
what's that?
4.18.
4.18.
4.1. In the
That's
IT,
not
you wanna
much.
put a placeholder in there for me
It's too much.
and highlight it? And I'm just looking at it, you wanna just. It's 85. Wanna just put 100 for now? 100,000, see where that.
It's 0.15 mils more than this first selectmen's.
So it's
budget.
28.7, is that what I saw? 7 something?
4.28.
Okay, it's 28.79.
What are you looking at? 'Cause
I'm just looking at the mill rate, in red.
28.79,
28.7.
and the expenditure increase is 4.28
Oh,
overall.
because she just added back
Yeah,
she just
that,
added back the IT?
yeah, she's throwing $100,000 placeholder.
That's what it is. So with the IT positions, which have to be there, you're saying it's 28.79.
And 4.18.
It's still at 4.18.
I don't.
Hold on, I think we can
4.28.
do something. The Board of Ed side. Hold
No, we're
on,
good. Board of Ed's fine.
I don't know. Never mind, don't listen
Well,
to me.
I mean,
Where did the 972 come from?
this number,
Okay,
Fully loading all of that.
fully loaded.
Yeah.
but that was just for, like, that was just to see.
That-
Right.
That was
What
just a
happened?
fee.
Yeah, it's just, that's what we put in so far. That's
It's
all.
been estimated, like, if we give, it happens to be about half, right? So it's a nice, like, number to throw
Well,
in.
yeah, but got the burden rate in there, but yeah, I mean, it's the number we were, when we said, don't look at specific items and what's the round number? So the numbers, that's what the number is. Well, yeah, we could change on Thursday, but you know, somebody could come in and say, we gotta, who knows, something blows up. I mean, everything happens on an hourly basis, so I think we've gone through it. I think we've done some due diligence. We've given the board, you know, a couple to dos.
And the 166,
What's the one?
That's the electric.
Yeah.
thank you, that was like 3.
Yeah, that was
Gosh.
2.5.
Okay,
You have to stay till 9. That's what the quiz is.
okay,
So Heidi, scroll to the bottom again for me,
please,
please. Thank you.
4.28.
So are you looking for a percentage expenditure increase,
Looking to
like,
be under 3.
What,
I mean, that's-
what is this?
that's
magic
never gonna
number of
happen,
3 or
right?
4? What is the magic number? What are we
we're at
looking?
4.28, right? Or am I looking at the wrong thing?
I keep hearing people talk.
I'm sorry.
4.28 represents what?
That's the
Expenditure.
expenditure increase year over year. Board and town combined.
And that is
Okay,
compared to the budget for last year.
That is budget to budget,
Mhm.
yes.
right. Okay. And
I mean, there's no way we're getting under 3.
And the town is, the town side, and am I reading that correctly? The town side is up 2.1 and the Board of Ed is up 5.
Correct.
Okay.
the average tax increase over the last 31 years is just 4 point something % per year. If you just take the.
But that
But that's an
4.28%,
expense, that's an expense. number.
how many, I mean, even take the percentages out. Thousands and thousands of dollars, people's taxes are going up, and
Heidi, go all
the
the way to the
percent
top.
of
So
people
tax,
that utilize town services.
the tax, overall taxes would be going up 4.61%. Now, having said that, residential taxes will be going up a lot more. Commercial will be going up less.
Less. And depending upon where your property falls in your increase in your assessment compared to what the average assessment is, you'll go up
If
more or
you're
less.
higher than the average.
If it's higher than
lower
the
than
average, yeah, if you're higher than the average, you're in real trouble. If
Mhm.
you're lower than the average, you get a break.
I'm in real trouble.
Yeah,
Yeah,
66%.
yeah, well, you're not one of the,
Mhm.
yeah. No,
Well, I calculated.
I got
Reading
nailed,
the
yeah,
spreadsheet.
well, once we talk, yeah, but
But yeah,
I'm
still pushing for more
my
for the
property,
schools.
I'm very,
my value
I
only
mean,
went up.
when I think about Monroe, I think about all
Yeah.
residents,
Mhm.
those on a fixed income, those who this increase is really gonna impact. I mean, when you look at the reeval and the homes that were most impacted,
Excuse me.
they're the smallest homes in this town. Smallest households, smallest homes, condos, etc. So I wanna make sure that we're creating a budget that is taking all populations into account. And I know we're very focused on education, and I get it. It's a foundation that I support. I'm not, don't misunderstand my words. But there's 70% of the Monroe population that does not use that school system. And there's all kinds of demographics, and I know you have 3 kids, I get it.
No, no, I
I
wasn't gonna say
understand your
that.
perspective, but as this board needs to look at the entire population of
Mm-hmm.
Monroe, and we need to put something together that we feel good about from that larger bird's eye view.
I completely understand that, and I agree with that. I will, however, say that 70%, what percentage of those people had children who went through the school system,
More than
who
likely,
benefit from better property tax values because of things like having a great education system? How many people their kids have grown up and those kids
Absolutely,
want
but
to
you know
come
what
back and
happens,
raise their
Jill?
kids here?
some of them leave. I
Mhm.
don't want people to have to leave. I
Oh, I
want
agree.
people to stay.
Of course, of course.
So,
We all,
I mean, come on.
I
we
know,
all-
but I mean, like, wouldn't it have been
we all
nice?
do, but there's also another piece to this. When inflation rates are high we hear, well, we gotta keep our town budgets low because everybody's getting hit over here. We've had a number of years with very low rates. We also are back into a school system that's growing. And if you weren't here or weren't paying attention in the 90s and early 2000s, that's where we were. And we've lived through the last, up until about 2017, 18, with declining enrollments and letting, staff go. And
But
And-
also
and look, on the
funding
town side-
education. I mean, we funded
And-
it every year.
we also reduce staff every year.
Mhm.
We also haven't funded things in the town side. So this is not just a Board of Education side. This town puts things off and brags about it. And eventually things catch up. And, I wish no prices ever increase, but you can't have a town, and I'm including the municipal side, with all these, which so much is contractual, whether it's labor or everything from electricity and insurance, and then say, well, we can't spend, we can't do what the numbers are telling us have to be done. I mean, I'd like to do something differently, but like I said at the beginning of the meeting, if you simply look at contracts that have been signed on the board side, we were talking about the Board of Ed. Are you saying that we're not going to fund a school system to the level that we've signed contracts at? Or school buses, or, we buy electricity and we're in a consortium or whatever, and we lock in rate? I mean, the numbers are the numbers. Now, maybe it would be great to pick a number and say, we're gonna have a 4% cap, and that's what we're gonna do every year. But we don't do that. We take advantage of every down year that we can, and we fight every time we have to do an increase. And we should do our due diligence. We should consider everybody. I completely agree. But sometimes there are hard realities, and I think there's frankly gonna be more hard realities with the things we've talked about, like how do you wean yourself off of the general fund? And do the things that, I mean, we went out and bought St. Jude's. And we allocated $3 million to do phase 1. We were told there's $7 million more. We've committed that for the town, and we shouldn't have bought the building. Now, you can't come back and say, we're not gonna hire the people to run the programs that we were justified buying the building in the first place. We have to live with what decisions we've made. And I mean, board, first selectman, multiple
Multiple first selectments.
generations, not generations, but you know, and town council. Anyway, that's it. I mean, I think we've had good discussions. I think we understand where we're at, and if we tweak something on Thursday, we tweak something on Thursday. Done good work. Motion to adjourn?
So before we.
Oh,
adjourn,
Oh.
never mind, motion was
So
wrong.
we'll prep the motions based on what's in here right now. Is this the way you want to keep this right now? I mean, you could always change on the fly, but I'd like to have, you know.
You're 99 point, I think.
Yeah, okay.
We're
So I
talking about like
think,
a
yeah,
line,
I
right?
think the IT stuff.
Which he could add, well, he's gonna tweak the number, but
Mhm.
yeah, so I don't think there's an issue we've missed. I don't think there's a section that we've missed. I think most people, can't speak for most people, have gone through their notes and have covered what they needed, wanted. Yes, no?
I think that just as far as the revenue side of things,
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to tweak
that
it.
will help.
Mhm.
Having that. So, I mean, maybe just leaving a couple of things blank.
We don't have to leave it blank, we'll just make the adjustment when you get the number.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we normally do. Heidi will fill it in. We'll get one final look at it. And then we have a short recess. They generate the motions and then we have our,
I mean, at each motion, there's a period of discussion,
yeah.
which
Right.
usually there's nothing, but it doesn't mean.
There can't be.
And the only thing I would ask is everybody, please try to be here in person. It's much easier to go
Oh my
round table,
gosh,
around the
yes.
table than with people on the phone.
Mhm.
We've learned that.
Did Nick say that he was gonna be able to make it or he's on vacation this week?
He's on vacation.
He's
today.
away, he might call in, I'll follow up with him.
All of us will be here.
I'll be here, yeah.
Okay.
He wouldn't be included in reading anything anyway.
No,
Unless he was here.
Yeah.
right,
Mhm.
but
Forget Nick.
no, but I want,
I did
but,
that 2 years ago and I
Yes.
was home with a concussion.
yeah,
And
that.
So you're
I
really
kept forgetting
confused.
my turn.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, you're blaming it on the concussion now. okay.
Yes, yes,
Um,
Steve.
Yeah. No, I was more asking, we definitely have a quorum, and if everybody's here, then it goes much smoother.
Yeah. Okay, motion to
Someone
adjourn.
doesn't work.
Second,
All right,
No,
thank you.
thank you.
thank you.